what you see, help out. If not, vote for the other person. I just spoke at Dartmouth on health care at the medical school, or not, I guess I wasn't actually on the campus, but the people from the medical school were at the, I want to be clear, I'm not going nuts. I'm not sure whether it was a medical school or where the hell I spoke, but it was on the campus. I want to thank Rich Fitzgerald, the county executive, Allegheny County executive, for being here. And I propose, and I'm going to digress slightly. We're in a situation. The president asked me to head up a cancer moonshot.
President Biden, just to be clear, would you or would you not rejoin the TPP? Yes or no?
I would not rejoin the TTP as it was initially put forward. In Guatemala, El Salvador, and to win and say in Honduras and say, look, I know I'm called middle class, Joe. It's not meant as a compliment. Means I'm not sophisticated. And there's an area where there's an important difference between this and there's an important difference between the candidates. I'm running. The country wasn't built by Wall Street bankers, CEOs, and hedge fund managers. This guy is moving to just foment hate. The price for whatever the drug costs are. Well, folks, eliminate one tax loophole out of $1.6 trillion worth, $1.4 trillion worth. Out of $1.4 billion. It's hard to even say it, it's so much. And by the way, it's cost a lot of money. It cost about $740 billion over 10 years. Every single solitary person qualified in community college, increasing the number of 6 to 9 million people. If you like your employer-based policy, you can keep that policy. If you agree with me, go to Joe 30330 and help me in this fight. If you want to be part of this campaign, pick up your phones. Pick up your phone. Now, send a text to the word United to the number 30330. 30330 or 303330. Or VOO. Wait. You got it. Stop it back there. Now he's feeling the pressure of an economy that's teetering on a recession. To say that LGBTQT people have no civil rights. And immediately change the law in the state of Delaware protecting transgender people. I took on Putin in terms of Iraq. In terms of what was going on in Ukraine. My long friend, time friend, and she's a friend. She's been my friend in and out of public life. Is will cost 1/30. 1/30. Costs a lot of money. Almost $740 billion is what I worked for 10 years. Not $30 trillion. Not $30 trillion. Among many qualified people, I'm the best qualified person for this job. And the reason is not just to help people who have or in fact are like to get Alzheimer's. Because think of what's been adopted. Milton Friedman's notion that the only obligation. That all changed with our Republican friends in the late 80s when they adopted Milton Friedman's notion that the only obligation. We find ourselves in a position where you're in a circumstance where we've adopted Milton Friedman's notion of conservative economists. Now, if in fact you are in a position, what was the case? You worked for Jimmy. That's why we're so special. It took courage. It took resilience. They know who we are. We have to let them know who we are. We can do it, and it's going to take billions of dollars to do it, and we can afford to do it. We can't afford not to do it. Cut in half the number uninsured of the Asian American Pacific Islander community. Cut in half. Don't worry, I'm so serious. Children, I love to hear them. But President Trump and the demagogues around the world, Donald Trump is re-elected. So people are figuring out there's not a damn thing we can do. We can't really set our mind. The single most stressed I was asked to speak to the American Psychiatric Association, to go over to the University of London and speak to the World Psychiatric Association. It's interesting. I just spoke to the International Society of Psychiatric International Organization of Psychiatrists. This is not a Republican talking point. The Republicans are trying to kill Obamacare. Union workers, the UAW took incredible cuts in their future. Now we have $1.6 trillion worth of loopholes in the law.
But I never thought that I'd see what I saw at Charlotte. You know, I came home from law school.
Avoid having an excuse to walk by the deal and say, no, I'm not going to be a mule. I got something to do. I got to go boom, boom, boom.
If we just were to reinstitute the cafe standards.
And I think Secretary, excuse me, I wasn't the press going to say I'm downgrading by calling him Senator Booker. The fact is that the bills that the president, the future president here, that the senator's talking about, and I was the one that suggested to the president, President Obama, I don't want to confuse presidents here. Look, we provide a Medicare option. That's exactly what Barack and I talked about in the beginning.
Couldn't get it through, though.
So I couldn't tell anybody but Barack. He's one of my closest friends. Invaded another country and annexed a significant portion of it called Crimea. He's saying that it was President, my boss, it was his fault.
I got assault weapons banned for 10 years. It had to be reauthorized because of hanging chads in Florida. The last president said, no, I'm not going to reauthorize it. We need to work again with Canada and Mexico as neighbors, not as adversaries. Saks or Benettons or Nike or whatever in the market, in their places where the malls.
Donald Trump does pose an existential threat to this. It's not hypothetical. We could put every one of them in school, cutting in half the cost of a four-year education. Why they do that? I ran the what they call the moonshot, dealing with cancer, and something after that set up the Biden Cancer Initiative. And here's the point: the conservative columnist, and they'd say, "You take my shotgun." I said, "I have three. I now have five because my son died, and I have three of his. I have 5 shotguns." Also have a mechanism to control drug prices. You know, it's not. We're no longer using chemical-based things. All this thing is really with cancers and other issues relating to the immune system or bioorganic. And by the way, the idea that the only people who entitled to rewards are stockholders. Ladies and gentlemen, he is deliberately and completely ignoring the legitimate authority of the Congress, and he's doing what he does with the complicity. Stop trying to keep your workers organized. It's about all these breakthroughs we have with the whole immune system. I want you to know, if you look at PolitiFacts, we're no longer the wealthiest middle class in the world. It means investing much more in medical research to conquer devastating diseases like cancer and addiction and Alzheimer's. The opportunities are amazing. We are in a position to be able to lead the world like we've never been able to do it before. I mean, they're not bad folks. But guess what? I found that the secretary, we sat together in many meetings.
There's things that are worth doing with China.
What presidents say matter. We also know we need teachers. My wife is a full-time teacher, taught all during being vice president.
High-quality options. The public option will be available on my plan. We'll make sure it's not quality. We'll make sure it's only affordable. Quality is affordable.
Not the end in themselves. Mischaracterizes my position across the board. Not those of us running for president alone. Not just activists like you. You know how many tax loopholes there are in the code now? 1,640 billion. Eliminate one. How can a person dignity be maintained? We choose truth over facts. You ever heard a president of the United States talk about law enforcement like he does today? I oversaw, as the chairman of the Judiciary Committee a long time, the FBI. Look what he talks about. But we lead by the example of our power, not just the power, not just the example of power, but the example. We're out there, and it's what we say. By strengthening. We have to eliminate the funding gap that exists between minority white and majority white and non-white districts. The fact of the matter is, I'm awfully sophisticated about why, how, and who built this country. Let me say this simply and clearly. They're not national assets. Wall Street bankers, CEOs, hedge fund managers, no matter how good and decent they are, they're not the ones who built this country. That triumph of democracy and liberalism, of fascism and autocracy. When I got out of school, when Bobby Kennedy and Dr. King had been assassinated in the 70s, late 70s, when I got engaged. I'm going to publicly apologize for not being able to make it. We don't even love them. That's who we are. No other nation was founded the way we are. We hold these truths self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, endowed by their creator. No nation has ever been founded on that principle. That was a time in the early and 60s and 60s where it was drop out, go to Haight-Ashbury. We can do this by making sure that we're in a position that we, in fact, allow people. Time's up. I agree that everybody, once they, in fact, they should. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Vice President.
But here's the deal, folks. Well, I think it shouldn't matter where your race. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. We can speak out and be more straightforward. Senator Joe, it's not about, I know you're supporting by saying booing, but look, here's the deal. You don't have here in Miami, in Florida. You don't have it here, and that is, if you keep an audience, that's why I'll end the gag rule, the global gag rule, that prevents money from getting to NGOs. In terms of the Ku Klux Klan and white supremacy. And if we give Donald Trump 4 more years, we'll have a great deal of difficulty, if ever, being able to. I looked at it anyway. That's what I think my plan. I know what my plan does. Such as de-escalation studies have. There have been de-escalation studies. The reason I did what I'm doing is because there's an invasion of Hispanics. She has an expression. She teaches full-time and has taught full-time. She taught full-time as the second lady. She taught 15 credits a semester. She's never stopped teaching. She's going back in 2 weeks to teach as well, to continue to teach. 65 out of every 100 jobs today require training beyond high school. 65 out of every 100. $30 trillion. It makes it far more durable, reliable, and powerful. Partnerships built on coercion. And Lisa, you have been a great friend for a long time. And your Paul son is remarkable. They also got that last year. And for folks in the working class that are below 400, they will, in fact, increase their premiums. Will increase the generosity of the premium tax credit they now get. They go to school from a middle class or upper middle class, and having heard, the estimates are as many as 4 million more words spoken. The next thing we got to do here along the line to report people's dignity, restore it. The most powerful military, not hyperbole, most powerful military in the history of the world. That's not hyperbole. Which we as a society talk about one another. The way we've always look. My wife, who is a teacher, she's teaching now. She's back in the classroom at a community college where she teaches in Northern Virginia. Things changed. You had over 40 kids shot in Kent State on a beautiful lawn by the National Guard. There are a whole lot of things, and guess what? Farm ownership and cooperating loan and operating loan. I remember sometimes when my dad was restless, my mom would say, because our rooms are next to one another, I'd say, the next morning, what's wrong? She said, your dad can't sleep. He's just staring at the ceiling thinking, what happens? We have to start rewarding work, not just wealth.
The first speech stood up. The chancellor, the former chancellor of Germany, stands up. She says, we have to go it alone.
International leaders spoke about it. You had people like you had people like the former chairman and leader of the party in Germany. You had Angela Merkel stand up and say how terrible it was.
I mean, look, this is beyond the scope of anything remotely what we've seen before. We provide efficiency for appliances. That saves billions of gallons of gasoline. I mean, billions of $2.3 billion worth of, $500 billion in savings and 2-point-something billion metric tons of CO2 going in the air.
Where an overwhelming number of families, ICE walks into a small Mississippi town and, in fact, arrests hundreds of workers.
Hello, everybody. We're back. Sorry I'm sort of late. There we go, better. Oh, also, I got, if you want to see that, this cool little, it's a Soviet poster. Can you see it? Do I have a close-up option? It says they're watching us from across the ocean. And it's America. It's a little globe emoji. Oh, that's the wrong one. Yeah, it's cool. I got a couple Soviet posters for Christmas. It's literally a fucking globe emoji.
Cops.
That's why it's so cool.
Alex Jones looks fatter than ever before.
So true, Bloomba. Thank you for the year. There's a bunch of people that subscribed. Unknown Merc, thank you for the 5 gift subs. Ebtides, thank you for the tier 3 4 months. Ebtides, thank you for the tier 3 4 months. Ebtides, thank you for the tier 3. Yes, rest in peace to Was Boppin'. Anatharion, thank you for the 7 months. Chain of Dogs, thank you for the gift sub. Grand Holy Emperor Brahm, thank you for the 1,000 bits. Kurt Vomit Guts, thank you for the tier 2. Nomos, thank you for the 7 months. Or thank you for the 2 months. Kurt Vomit Guts. Nomos, thank you for the 7 months. Sleepy B, thank you for the 2 months. Selra, thank you for the 3 months. I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. Oh, what's the prediction? I played Disco Elysium. I played it on stream at some point. It's not a very good game to stream. That link didn't work. I don't know. Sierra. Or was it... What's the prediction? Will we play Wonderwall by the end of the stream? Oh, shit. There you go. You can actually... Okay. Yeah, let's see. Because I know how to play it. We've established that I know how to play it, right? That's great. That's good stuff. Let me... Yeah, that's very funny. Plaid wife, thank you. Thank you for making that. That's very funny. Yeah, that's good. That's an emote. I'm making that an emote. Absolutely. I gotta. I can't not.
All cops are bad cops.
Electionary Ray is back.
Oh yeah, Ray, Mark's post. Thank you for the 13 months. So what are we thinking here for the election? There's an election going on. There's also a hype train if you want to contribute to it. Just a great way to start up the stream. We love it, folks. What are we thinking? My prediction is Purdue and Warnock win. So we got the needle. The needles. You gotta stay in line. Stay in line. If you're in line to vote from the federal election, the national election, and you haven't voted yet, you just stay in line. Ossoff is a loser, so I think Purdue's gonna win, but I think Warnock is. That's probably the most likely. We love the needle, folks. Incredible stuff. The needle comes back. every time, every time. So yeah, it seems like it's probably just gonna be like a 50-50. I mean, it could go either way technically. It could, you know. Yeah, what do we? Will Dems control with the channel points? I wonder. Will we? When will we know? I guess how long can you make a prediction last? I guess you can just wait until it's announced. Because will we know today? Like in the next couple hours? Real Postino hours. I'm staying in line right now. This is the line. This stream counts as the line. Thank you for the hype train, everybody. Much appreciated. Um, Probably within 24 hours. Okay. Yeah, I mean, love to see the needle come back. Incredible stuff, really. Yeah, so it's really absolutely a toss up. Let's see, what are the results are like super skewed to the Dems, but that's just because of how they're counting it, right? Um, they have money on Ossoff and Warnock. Ossoff and Warnock. Well, I mean, that's probably I wouldn't I wouldn't want to make a prediction. Fuck the needle. Yeah, the needle is literally the funny thing about the needle is like this has happened twice where he's the dude who makes the fucking needle is like, "Oh wait, I forgot about a critical element of the how the election happens and it broke my needle and I have to edit it." So who fucking knows? Who knows, folks? Someone said Biden would do something good if Ossoff won. So they know they know he lost already. Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. Um Vote your ass off. Yeah, all that classic. Um, the needle didn't fail us. We failed the needle. That's true. Yeah, you love to see the needle come back though. It's a classic. Um, what can we watch? There's probably some Majority Report videos on it. All right. So what is the bet? How, can I let's look at these predictions. Will Dems win control? 41% say yes, and 59% say no. And that's how many channel points? 99,000 channel points on yes, 146 on no. So there's a lot. There's a lot. Bulimba with the 68,000 channel point vote. This prediction thing is great, I will say. Meaty 52, thank you for the 100 bits. I actually get 2,000 checks. I would imagine if they have control of the Senate, they could probably do some shit. But and maybe 2,000 checks, but you know, I wouldn't hope for it, admittedly. If you scroll down on the needle page, it shows the most recent votes added. How it changed the needle. Oh, that's cool. I see. You know, all this dang data. Win percentage over time for Warnock cost. Oh, that's cool. This is probably the coolest part. And then this general chart is good. And then let's see. Ossoff Perder. Yeah, I mean it could be double dem. It's not impossible. I just wouldn't like really fucking hope for it. Yeah, who knows? It is very possible. And I mean I wonder how much we can like know this. To the extent to which like all of the election being rigged should actually depress the vote for Democrats. That'd be interesting to see. I don't know how you could analyze that really. I guess we'll see on the results. How many like Trump voters went out for the Republicans in Georgia? Because I know there's a lot of new voters that didn't vote in the general that are coming out for this. So it might not matter even. Oh god, is there still Jimmy Dore fucking drama? Shit. We're saying rural turnout has non-existed and last turnout was near election day levels. Oh really? Well, that's looking good for the Dems, obviously. The classic Marxist I am, saying how awful the peasantry is, and how much better the urban population is. Yeah, I'm assuming. I mean, fuck. Like before I left to break, you killed me in my sleep, Chelsea. Oh, I cannot believe it. Shaking my head. How rude of you to have done. Damn. But so far from more heavily damned than in November. Oh, cool. Yeah, we don't have to talk about the door shit. I'm sure it's like the fact that this is still a thing is just every indication you need to know that like the reason Dora is doing this is because people are talking about him and he wants to be relevant. He doesn't actually give a fuck about anything. Are you kidding? Okay, thank you. I'm glad. Thank you for not killing me in my sleep in a video game, Chelsea. Anyways, do they have any? Oh, this is funny.
Tomorrow is a hugely consequential day for the next 2 years, the next 4 years, frankly. We have a runoff in Georgia. Kelly Loeffler.
All right, let's see. Rural Seth J. Luke's done. Purdue plus 40. Loeffler plus 40. Trump, it was plus 41, but it's 2,500 compared to 2,100. Only 86% of November turnout. Great news for Dems. Interesting. So that might legitimately indicate, I mean, it's a very small datum, or very small amount of data, but that it genuinely, like the election rig stuff genuinely did, suppress the Trump vote, which is really funny. It's so funny. It's hilarious. And we saw Trump admit this on that phone call we were listening to, the private one. He's like, why would people ever vote if they knew it was rigged? But he's like, but he knows that at some level at least. But regardless, he'll go to a rally to get people to vote and be like, it was rigged, folks. It's so cool. Awesome. He's such a fucking...
in a seat in a temporary basis because... and
Trump doesn't give a fuck about Republican senators. He only cares about himself.
Years. That's why we have 2 elections there. This is a special election, essentially, runoff. She is running against Raphael Warnock, the Democrat, and we have David Perdue is up for normal re-election in a runoff against John Ossoff. And
oh, is this good? They're like Pelosi on traditional committee assignments, Oversight and Reform Committee, Porter AOC, Tlaib, and Cory Bush. And she's happy about that, I guess. I have no clue what that means.
we will dig into this a little bit more.
Is that a
but,
is that a thing
as the
that's
show
important?
progresses,
Or is that like a performative?
it's very hard
a symbolic
to
thing?
determine, to read tea leaves.
Coin flips, both of them.
Both of them really more or less coin flips. There are encouraging signs, but it almost is not worth discussing.
Yeah.
Because
Oh yeah, Proud Boys are ACAB now because they're like, their leader got like arrested for destroying public property.
We've been burned so many times with these encouraging signs about, oh, look at the turnout in 2016, early turnout for Hillary Clinton. Look at
Exactly.
the turnout in this state. And what do you know? It looks like there are a lot of enthusiastic Republican
Why is Ossoff bad? He's a Democrat.
and Trumpy voters, too, that kind of dispel this notion that early voting tends to only help Democrats.
we
know.
know that there's
He doesn't-
younger
Cops
voters
are
who are
bad
voting.
cops.
Healthcare,
that
right?
the
Bubble
the numbers
Baptist.
of African
Thank you for the
Americans
Jeff
who are
Bezos
voting
bucks.
are all encouraging signs in Georgia. It's also there has been a tremendous amount of dissent on the Republican side. We are going to get to the big story, of course. Donald Trump caught on tape. I mean, it is an unbelievable hour of audio. We won't play it all, obviously, but we will talk about
All
that.
cops
But
are bad
here
cops.
is
The
Kelly
dude's
Loeffler.
here. Thank you for Jeff Bezos bucks. It's a
Walking
pretty
this
powerful
tightrope.
committee. Okay.
Both Loeffler and Perdue had to come out in the past couple of days for $2,000 checks
Yeah, he said healthcare is a human right.
because
He
it
was
was being
against Medicare
pushed
for all.
by Ossoff and
Incredible.
Warnock.
Incredible stuff, Ossoff.
Bernie Sanders was
Great
leading
idea.
the charge on the Hill for
After
these
Trump
2,000.
gave him this opening.
Well, he
yeah.
started. He was pushing.
This is a great Matt tweet. If Ossoff wins, he might be the Democratic nominee in 2024. If Ossoff loses, he definitely will be. That's very funny.
for it. And then Trump also basically came out for it. And Nancy Pelosi, to her credit, and
Wouldn't commit to ending the filibuster.
I'm not necessarily very loose with providing credit for Nancy Pelosi. After it failed on unanimous consent, because Republicans blocked it in the House, they had a full vote on it. They pushed it to the Senate very quickly. And we will talk about what happened to it there.
Animo, thank you for the 6 months.
But here is Kelly Loeffler trying to walk a tightrope because she can't come out in favor of anything anymore because of what's happening on the Republican side.
I now live in a blue state. What the hell?
Being
Epstein
asked,
Bagels, thank you for the 2 months. Crazy stuff, folks.
Fox News, I believe it is, about
Is blue state, red state
why
just
she didn't vote
the national election?
on the national defense
Or does it have any
authorization
reference
vote,
to,
because
like, the
there was an
governor?
attempt by the Democrats, one which was abandoned at one point, to hold up this vote to force McConnell to give a vote on the $2,000 checks. Here is that clip.
A lot of people look at this race and think President Trump may have put you and Senator Perdue in a box. First, when he threatened to not sign the COVID stimulus and government funding, then he signed it. Then, after that, demanding or calling for additional direct payments, which you then supported. And then by vetoing the national defense bill, which you originally
These are some good
supported
questions.
and voted for.
I will say, shout out to Fox.
Why didn't you vote on the veto override Friday in the Senate?
Well, look, I've stood with the president 100% of the time. He's putting America first. He's fought for our men and women in the military. He restored our strength in our Department of Defense and our national security. But look, I have to be out across this state campaigning to make sure that Georgians turn out and vote on January 5th, because none of this will matter if we don't win on the 5th. Look, Chuck Schumer has said he's going to defund our military by 25%. Raphael Warnock, John Ossoff, they would be rubber stamps for defunding the military, the police, raising taxes, ushering in government-run health care, weakening our Second Amendment rights, opposing our religious freedom. That's all on the ballot here in Georgia, January 5th. That's what I'm fighting for, is to preserve the future of our country.
Understanding the campaigning is important, and you're saying how important this election is on January 5th, but obviously Georgia is a big defense state, current and former military here, defense business here. How would you have voted had you voted on that veto override?
Well, look, I voted to support the NDAA. The bill that came out of conference was very different from what we'd been promised. So I don't know. I was here in Georgia working across the state, and I will continue to stand with our men and women in the military. Raphael Warnock will not stand for our military. He's attacked them. He said you can't serve God and serve in the military.
Right, but you would have sustained the veto, the president's veto, on the NDAA.
Look, what's at stake here is our military and our freedoms. Those are what's on the ballot right now. And I'm the daughter and granddaughter of veterans. We're the 5th largest state for veterans and active duty military here in Georgia. I have fought for our military and made sure that we get the funding we need. And we're going to continue to do that. But if we don't win on January 5th, our military will be defunded and worse.
I won't belabor it, but that's
It is funny to see, like, because like Loeffler is a great example of like the type of Republican politician that like Trump was supposed to stand against. You know, this sort of canned response, robotic, and she is now put in the position where she has to deal with appealing to that base, but she's just a fucking like robot.
A yes or no, whether you would sustain the veto.
And worse.
I won't belabor it, but that's not a yes or no, whether you would sustain the veto or not.
Bad cops.
That's right.
Okay, you're not answering that. Listen,
that's
Senator
right.
Joe Manchin.
I like that. I like that. That was
That's
the
right.
one moment she's ever appeared human on television.
Myopia, utopia.
I mean, up
until
until that moment, I was going to say she should be moonlighting, teaching a learning annex class on how not to answer a question at all.
Very useful skill for politicians. She could actually, if she loses to Raphael Warnock, that can be her new full-time gig on the side of enriching herself through her stock portfolio, through questionable, dubious legal means, obviously.
I got to think her advisor, she walks off the set.
That's the most bizarre shit about. I genuinely I'm not even beginning to be close to understanding what it would be like to be someone like Loeffler, where you have so much fucking money. She's worth like $500 million. And like what you want to do is be in the fucking Senate. Like, you want to go on Fox and answer these, like dodge these fucking questions, appeal, like, even, like, appeal to fucking Trump voters to get your seat. Like, why is that? You can do whatever the fuck you want. Her and her husband are 800 mil, right? You can do whatever the fuck you want. Why is that what you want to do? I don't understand.
Guys are going like, you had it until the last second. Why didn't you just say like, oh, Brett, or something like that, rather than, yes, I'm not going to answer the question. I'm definitely not going to take a position on that after all that time. Now, I want to know what happens, what's worse in her mind than defunding the military? Like, is Raphael Warnock saying that he's going to, like, what's he, like, he's going to not only defund the military.
He's going to defund the police
It's a
first
power thing.
and then defund the military.
Yeah.
But she said, like, defund, I guess maybe, like, I don't know, maybe like making them all become Antifa or something like that.
Let's see the needle.
Well, you know who just tried to defund the military was Donald Trump.
Well, Donald Trump did indeed. That's
vetoed the NDAA.
Or worse.
You know, it was ostensibly trying to get those $2,000 checks, which he
I do
completely
hate
gave up
real
on
grinders
very
and
quickly,
hustlers who love
but
work. Absolutely.
I was sort of in favor of that
That's
until
so
Democrats joined with Republicans to override it, with the exception
No,
of...
I don't think Loeffler fucking believes in anything. Personally, I know that she fucking hates Trump probably, and is like so pissed that she has to like deal with
all cops are bad cops.
I guess I don't know who the fuck she is, clearly. And like pissed she has to appeal to like the Trump, they stole our election people. Neuroxium, thank you for $5. It is cool to see like the position that Republicans, like quote unquote respectable Republicans, are in now. You know, they're sharing a fucking like, they're sharing a level of power with like serious QAnon believers and having to appeal to them as their fucking base. That is funny to see, and I'm sure they're miserable about it.
You know, Ed Markey,
it makes things complicated.
Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, etc.
There was a couple others who joined in that
church service at Warnock's church before she became a senator. Jeez.
And to be fair, also he wanted
she does not believe in a single
Section
thing
230
except
repealed
more money and power for
of the Digital Millennium Act, and he wanted none of the bases that have been named after the secessionists in the Civil War. He wanted them to be renamed renamed as they were before. But so that's where he is. And I should also say one other note. Kelly Loeffler read off a list of things that the Democrats are going to do if they take the Senate, which included, you know, government-run healthcare, checks for everybody. I mean, the list went on, and I have to say,
awesome.
That is whatever world Kelly Loeffler is living in. That's the one that I want to move to. That America sounds quite good to me.
Look, she's caught in a completely unenviable position. If you feel sympathy for her between McConnell and Trump, I know I don't either.
I love
it
so much.
McConnell's really the one who is responsible for the fact that we don't have these $2,000 checks, and she can't say that because, you know, she's a part of his caucus, but that's really where she's at. So she can't take a position either way because then she's caught between these two leaders.
And like, she knows that McConnell is the future of the party and that Trump has no future, that the only time she'll ever have to deal with Trump, and maybe this might not be the case explicitly for Trump voters, but Trump specifically as like a person of political power, and watch me be wrong on this, which would be super funny. Funny is probably not the right word for it. But is this election? Because after that, Trump is gone. So it's like
the Republican
a complicated
Party, one who's leaving, one who resonates with the base, and the one who's the actual kingmaker and puppet master behind the scenes.
It's going to be fascinating.
New QAA episode. I think, what is this? Just dropped like an hour or so ago. Yes, it's good stuff. The Jesus Q connection. I read the whole fucking book. It's like 200 pages of this Christian Q guy. And then I had a little skit at the end about Barron Trump and his dog Bulger. It's good stuff. You should go listen to it. Also, I have a podcast that I should plug. And a Patreon, because I just released an episode which was like a short story thing. And a Patreon with premium episodes for just $2 a month on my Patreon. Absolutely shameless self-promotion. Of course, this is my stream. I got to do that.
To see if her strategy of demonizing
just simply $2 a month, folks, for premium podcast episodes. Absolutely shameless plug. I have no shame.
Going to prove successful. And
you have a link
to his credit, the moment, literally, I think the next day after he realized they were going to a runoff after the election, he put out an ad saying, "Get ready for it, because she's going to throw the kitchen sink at me because she's not running on anything. She can't even answer a simple, basic question on Fox." Listen, when you're a Republican politician and you're on Fox and you get hung up like that, you know you've got a problem.
She's supremely untalented as a politician on top of the general corruption and
she literally, they were like, that's so funny that they were like, "So you're dodging the question," and she's like, "That's right."
Moral vacuousness.
She's very.
I have to respect that. That's right in that situation. Okay, let's watch this. Why U.S. election in Georgia matters.
In February 2009, President Obama gave his first address to Congress. Behind him was the Speaker of the House, a Democrat, and in the audience was the Senate Majority Leader, also a Democrat, which meant that when Obama said this,
"Healthcare reform cannot wait, it must not wait, and it will not wait another year,"
he wasn't kidding. The next year, his healthcare bill was passed in both houses of Congress and became law, even though every single Republican voted against it. But later that
they really fucking could have got Medicare for all.
That year, Republicans won back the majority.
I mean, it would have, because they had a filibuster-proof majority in the House and Senate, but there were definitely some conservative Dems that would not have been down with
House
Medicare for all, so it probably wouldn't have been filibuster-proof, but they could have fucking got it.
For the rest of his presidency, Obama never again passed a major piece of legislation. Then Donald Trump became president with a Republican House and a Republican Senate. They passed his tax bill. No Democrats voted for it. But in the next election, Democrats won control of the House, and that was the end of Trump's legislative agenda.
Such an
now
awful
Joe
system.
Biden is about to start his presidency with a House controlled by Democrats, but we still don't know who will control the Senate. Of the Senate's 100 seats, we know Republicans will have 50 and Democrats will have 48. But these, we don't know yet. These are the last two races of the 2020 election, and they'll decide if the new president's agenda will be ambitious or compromised. And they're both happening in the same place.
Georgia, Georgia, Georgia. At stake, control of the U.S. Senate. 2 Senate runoff races.
Which, of course, if the Democrats literally just have a tiebreaker win with the VP in the Senate, like, they're going to have to get literally every Democrat senator to support a bill. If a single one doesn't, it won't pass. So, that's still pretty,
that are now the center of the political world.
It's certainly better.
In nearly
for
every
people's
U.S. state,
practical lives.
elections are won by the candidate with the most votes. But in the state of Georgia, most candidates need to reach at least 50% of votes to win, a true majority. When that doesn't happen in Georgia, the top two candidates move on to a second election, a runoff, and everyone votes all over again. That's what happened in November. Republican Senator David Perdue got the most votes in his reelection.
Oh, this is such a classic. I bet if Warren was in charge of vaccine distribution, we'd be drunk at Chili's right now. It's so sad to see what's happening to brunch. How they're just this is total fucking brunch erasure. She's got a plan, folks. She's a woman with a plan. I'm confused also. I mean, I guess it's just like, because there's no reality in which she would be in charge of vaccine rollout. And also no reality in which you would get enough vaccines by now to responsibly be able to go get drunk at anyways.
Election race, but he
It's
missed
a great tweet. It's a great tweet.
That 50% mark by just a few thousand votes. So he and the Democrat Jon Ossoff will compete in a runoff election on January 5th. What's extremely unusual, though, is that there were 2 Senate races in the same state in the same year. The other was a special election to fill the seat of a senator who retired early due to bad health.
Oh, right, so that's how Loeffler has the seat at the moment. She fucking bought it.
Race, several Republicans and several Democrats ran, and no one got close to 50%. So the top two candidates, Republican Kelly Loeffler and Democrat Raphael Warnock, now go to the runoff. In the U.S., runoff elections are most common in the South, an area with a long history of white politicians suppressing the vote of Black Americans. And during the Civil Rights Movement, runoff elections became one of the tools to do that. In 1963, a white Georgia politician named Denmark Groover proposed the runoff system after he lost an election to what he called Negro block voting. He argued that when a black candidate runs against many white candidates, the black candidate would get a block of black voter support, while white support would be spread out. But if you made that black candidate run against just one white candidate, knowing that lots of white voters wouldn't vote for a black candidate, the white candidate would have a better chance at winning. Years later, Groover was open about the fact that his plan was racially motivated, but Georgia adopted it. In 1990, the federal Justice Department...
That doesn't even make sense as like a tool, right? Like, what, the assumption being that there would only be one black candidate? It doesn't... I mean, that's the weirdest thing for me to focus on here, I know.
Department sued Georgia over their runoff system. They argued it had a demonstrably chilling effect on the ability of blacks to become candidates. But the suit failed, and Georgia still does it this way. This year's special Senate race features exactly the kind of matchup the system was designed to produce, a black candidate versus a white candidate. But Georgia, once a reliably Republican state, is changing. Organizers are getting black voters registered in record numbers. More of its white residents are voting Democratic. And in the 2020 presidential election, a Democrat won Georgia for the first time in 28 years. If both
I guess the idea in a white-dominated political system, the black voters would consolidate around one candidate. I guess, okay.
Democrats win their runoffs, making it 50-50, the Democratic vice president would serve as the tie-breaking vote, so Democrats would take majority control. And that would mean Biden could likely pass much of his progressive agenda. But if Republicans win either...
But again, they need every single fucking Democrat in the Senate to agree with that, which is still a big if.
Seat, they win control.
And also, even if like, the implication here is that Biden is more progressive than the conservative Republicans like Manchin. Is Manchin in the Senate?
Biden could likely pass...
Which is like... I mean, we'll fucking see, but I wouldn't hope on it. I wouldn't count on it.
But if Republicans win either seat, they win control. And the Republican who will be in charge of that Senate, Mitch McConnell, has vowed to not let any of Biden's legislation pass, saying, "Think of me as the Grim Reaper."
I need 2 senators from this state. Want to get something done.
The voters of Georgia will determine which party runs every committee, writes every piece of legislation, and that really means control of this country.
This is a study showing how
often really just call himself the Grim Reaper.
Members of Congress have voted with the other party. You can see this used to happen fairly often, but less and less over time. Today, there's no longer any expectation that the parties will be able to work together on most issues. That's why who holds the majority is more important than it's ever been.
It's such a wretched
I will fight to expand affordable health care.
A 100% Trump voting record.
David Perdue had his chance.
We win Georgia. We save America.
The 2020 election is almost over, and we know who will be president. But until the state of Georgia weighs in, we won't know what he'll actually be able to do.
Okay, that's pretty much what I thought. Let's see. It's, what is it? Tilting Warnock, tilting Ossoff. It's fucking close. So far, how many reported? Like 23 or so? I mean, the Warnock lead is expanding, and the Ossoff lead is expanding, but, like, really not by that much. I'm gonna understand it through the needle. There's nothing you guys can do to stop me. We'll get the results today. That seems probably likely, right? Someone definitely linked me something while we were watching this. That I should watch, but I can't remember. You gotta vote your Ossoff. It's hilarious. It's a great one. Oh, here we go. Yeah, even like the Westminster system, you can at least get shit done. It's a liberal democracy all the same, but you know, if you have a majority, you know, you form a majority governments in, let's say, Canada, you can get shit done without much of an issue. In America, there's so much that is fucking put in that political system to make sure that any significant change is like not possible through reform.
Anxious about Georgia, to be honest with you. The stakes obviously are huge. We have exceptionally high turnout at this point.
This is so true. I'm angry that they leaked this, the Canadian government. Liv posting thought luxury space communism by 2025. Yeah, no, I was gonna, I wanted to do it subtly. I didn't want them to tell everyone it was gonna happen, but yeah, this is true. Mothman's biggest fan. Thank you for the year.
My understanding is turnout is 23% lower than it was in the November election, relatively speaking. But this is a special election, and that's still pretty amazing. And the November election was had an enormous turnout. So there's a lot of enthusiasm there. There's also about over 100,000 people now, 112,000 voters who did not vote in the 2020 general election, who are voting, who have voted in this election so far.
Yeah. So it's around 3 million early votes cast, and that's 40% of registered voters in Georgia already.
And that's, I mean, you know, look, there's indications that there's been increased turnout amongst younger people and amongst African Americans. Very hard to read these tea leaves.
I know. I mean, these all sound like positive signs, but once again, we've been here before where we're talking about these wonderful signs for the Democrats, and what do you know? The Republican Party stronghold.
It's really Ossoff Purdue. I think it's looking for. Oh, that's it. Wait, no, sorry, not Ossoff Purdue. Yeah, no, it's really Ossoff Purdue. It's looking at least somewhat certain for Warnock Loeffler. I would be very surprised if Warnock didn't win this, which is cool because of how awful Loeffler is. It's really just fucking. It's this. It's Ossoff Purdue. Is fucking close.
Stands firm, and now you have Trump going to Georgia, which I know we'll talk about. But Loeffler's promising, I'll contest the election results. Could rile up the base. We'll see. It might be too late, though. Again, we just don't know.
We don't know. But what was very interesting was that
I don't know if that means win both or lose both. I guess it does. Yeah, I guess.
Joe Biden was in Georgia last night, and the reporting.
I don't know if it's necessarily win both or lose both, but I think obviously the chances of it being split are much lower.
The past couple of weeks was that Joe Biden
538 thinks Dems were gonna win. Well, how good were the polls in Georgia in the national election? Because there were a couple states that were relatively accurate, and then everything else was just awful, just like so impressively. Let me look. What did they have Georgia at?
Biden was basically telling Democrats in the House in particular to prior to Donald Trump coming out and saying he wanted $2,000 checks. Joe Biden is basically
okay. I mean, I guess this actually, and this is basically only just poll data stuff. That seems like I think that was maybe one of the states that wasn't too bad. Because it was fucking close.
Been saying, sort of back off this a little bit.
I guess we'll see, folks.
However,
we'll see how Nate does.
Donald Trump provided an opening. Nancy Pelosi, to her credit, took it. They could have just stopped at attempting.
I guess actually, yeah. There is still a radical shift in who might potentially vote, as we saw with like rural voters not showing up as much potentially. which means that even if they did have some good sense of how to poll in Georgia for the federal election, they don't have it for they might have lost that for these elections.
Unanimous consent, but they pushed it all the way to a vote. They had to suspend the rules because it was a change in regular order, and they passed it. They sent it to the Senate. Mitch McConnell killed it, even though Loeffler and Perdue had come out and said they were now for it because they had been being hammered by John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock in this race. And Joe Biden, yesterday in Georgia, essentially just laid it right on the line.
So you guys haven't gotten any fucking checks in America in like a long time? Like the checks that they needed to make the election, that the Republican senators wanted to make us look. You just got the 600? Okay. I was gonna say, even if they had like, you haven't. The 600 went out. Oh, it hasn't come yet though. Just got it? Oh, okay. So it's soon. I was gonna say, even if they like promise that it's coming, there will be no significant effect positively for the Republicans unless people actually fucking have money.
He said that despite the fact that Loeffler and Perdue might want it, you're not going to get it if Mitch McConnell maintains control of the Senate. Here's Joe Biden.
Do we have to sign up? I have no clue. 40% in already? It's, yeah, I think Warnock-Loeffler is pretty solid, right? It seems more. The bigger question is Ossoff-Perdue.
One state.
All cops are bad cops.
Oh shit, we're voting.
It's voting time.
4 years,
Bissinger, thank you for the 6 months.
By electing John and the Reverend, you can make an immediate difference in your own lives, the lives of the people all across this country, because their election will put an end to the block in Washington on that $2,000 stimulus check. That money that will go out the door immediately to help people who are in real trouble. Think about what it'll mean to your lives. Putting food on the table, paying rent, paying for your mortgage, paying down the credit card, paying the phone bill, the gas bill, the electric bill. Just look around.
Dems did a good job motivating.
Millions of people in this country out of work through no fault of their own. No fault of their own. They're struggling. Many are fearful, and many have given up hope. Look at the lines at food banks. Hours and hours and hours. This is the United States of America, for God's sake. And their food lines, like we've not seen since the Depression. And they're getting longer. Families, children.
I mean, I will say, if the fucking Senate's blue, then what excuse would Dems have to be like, we got nothing done?
People have worked their whole lives.
The obvious excuse being there are some senators that are Democrat that won't agree with progressive stuff.
Except a fighting chance.
Yeah, it's goddammit Joe Manchin.
They're lining up for food in America. And the debate over $2,000 isn't some abstract debate in Washington. It's about real lives. Your lives, the lives of good,
the line is still longer in
hard-working
South Carolina, but you're staying in line.
And you're like millions of Americans all across this country. You need the money, you need the help, and you need it now. Look, Georgia, there's no one in America with more power to make that happen than you, the citizens of Atlanta, the citizens of Georgia.
I mean, it's. I have some issues with the rhetoric. We'll take that in a second. But the reality is that I think it's easy to overestimate what can happen if the Democrats take the Senate, because you still have folks like Joe Manchin and would-be Joe Manchins who are going to place themselves right in the middle of these two parties and make sure that everything has to go through them, and they'll be a little bit skimpy about stuff. That's the way they get attention. But the fact is that Joe Biden laid it out there with the $2,000. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more that comes with allowing for a Democratic Senate, but that makes it very, very simple. And that's pretty compelling. Now, that said, I don't necessarily appreciate the idea that, no fault of their own, because it sets up a dynamic that very often, or maybe, sometimes, or in normal times, if people lose their jobs, it's a fault of their own. Or if they're living in poverty, it's a fault of their own, as opposed to structural things. In fact, our guest is going to talk about that, I suspect, today, that lead to that. But as a campaign pitch, as a last day, as a closing argument, that's pretty strong stuff.
Yeah, and I actually think it's fairly well suited for Georgia there. I mean, he's an old school kind of Democrat, and typically southern states like that have churned out Democrats who espouse similar rhetoric here. I mean, Ossoff, for example, he's not Bernie Sanders. So I was pleasantly surprised by this. I hope he did talk to Joe Manchin and the other centrist Democrats who are going to try to be kingmakers in this instance. But it's not just the right strategy, or it's not just the right
it could
policy,
be
because it's simple and it gets relief to people quickly and easily. But it's also the right move strategically. And I think this goes against a lot of Biden's inclinations to be more centrist, means testy. But this policy has shown, and stimulus checks have shown to be so popular. They gave Trump a boon in a way that I think Democrats underestimated going into the November election. And larger checks would help Democrats long term. So even if they're just thinking in a self-interested manner, it's the right thing to do. And Biden should be pushing for this. We'll see what happens if both Democrats win and both those seats turn blue. This could not happen, and then they face a whole different set of problems.
I'm not convinced it's not consistent with Biden, because I don't think that Biden has that strong of an ideological perspective. I think he saw the House vote.
What person would vote for Warnock and Perdue? It's more like what person would leave, the question of someone who would vote for Warnock and then not Ossoff would just leave that blank.
Overwhelmingly for this, and he likes to put himself right in the middle, regardless of where that is.
Is it a Juan Guaido joke?
The point that I think it shows us on some level
Pete
is that
Buttigieg declares victory in both
there is an
Georgia runoff
ability
races.
to push
That's
our
good.
politics to
That's
the
funny.
left, he is going to go. He is not going to swim against that tide. He is going to land right in the middle of wherever the argument is. And if you have overwhelming support from a Democratic House on an issue, he will move to place himself a certain distance.
Yeah. Okay, so it is, I will say, I guess, for a multitude of reasons, it would be
All
cool to
cops
see
are
both Dems
bad
win.
cops.
Rome Gavin, thank you for the Bezos bucks. Because obviously they might be able to pass fucking something. Although again, you see Biden's attitude already. You see with that like leaked video with like civil rights leaders, where it's like, you got me in. What do you mean you're asking for shit? Fuck you. I got in. I did the thing. I called Trump bad, and now we're here, and I don't have to do much. So we'll see if they even try to do anything vaguely progressive. But they cannot have, essentially they can't have the excuse, or it won't be as clear if the Senate is Democrat, why the fuck they didn't get any progressive reform done. Because if it's Republican, then it's like, well, you're going to convince a Republican to vote for progressive reform in the Senate. But if it's Democrat, what excuse do you have? Yeah, because I know the fake woke posturing about left-wing policy isn't anti-racist enough going to disappear. I mean, I think that implies that discourse requires like an empirical fact in relation to left-wing policy, and if that in fact is disproven, the discourse goes away, which is like, it doesn't, right? But who knows, I guess. Joe Biden ran for craziest white boy and won. Absolutely. What's this? Defeated Republican by 69 votes. I heard about this. It's in Pennsylvania, right? Didn't get to take the oath of office after Republicans voted to deny his seat. They were just like, no, you can't get in. What are you going to do about it?
As interim president pro tempore of the Senate, a motion has been made to invoke Section 576 of Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure to replace the Lieutenant Governor who has refused to perform the duties.
Mr. President, I am
in
totally
accordance with the Senate powers under Article 2 of the Pennsylvania Constitution.
It has not been acquiesced. We are not changing the process.
Section
The chair changing the rules as we move along. That is inappropriate. You are breaking the Constitution and the laws of the Commonwealth and violating the oath of office you've actually taken. There's nothing about this day that is appropriate. Nothing. And we will not lay down and roll over because you got four more folks on that side of the aisle. This is about Pennsylvania. It's not Democrats or Republicans. This is not about simply winning. It's about protecting our democracy. That's what this is. Aye.
Arnold, aye. Almond.
Aye. There's no roll call vote, Mr. President. It has not been acknowledged. It has not been recognized. It is inappropriate to do such. We will not participate in this farce.
Bartolotta, aye.
Blake. Isn't that crazy?
No.
It's interesting, a constitutional democratic system. How what is required for it to not work anymore is just, essentially, this is like a bullshit answer. All that's required is for people to not do it anymore, to not care. As soon as people don't care, as soon as the discursive relationships in a room change to the point in which Republicans could literally just fucking ignore the rules, then what do you have? The obvious response is you have people that are trying to enforce the rules as, reasonably interpreted in that sort of constitutional framework. But fucking what happens if they can't do that? It's crazy. Crazy stuff, folks. Okay, what's this? This is who is this again?
I have 2 words to say. Thank you, Jesus.
It's Roger Stone. That's awesome. I got 2 words to say. Thank you, Jesus.
Controllers! We don't quietly take the election fraud. We don't quietly take the scam and believe their BS. We've seen the evidence. The system has had to desperately engage in this gambit to maintain control. But this will be their Waterloo. This will be their destruction.
This will be their Waterloo.
Whatever happens to President Trump in 15 days, he is still the elected president of this republic, and we do not recognize the communist Chinese agent Joe Biden or his controllers.
What is this rally? Oh, it's the Trump DC rally. Oh, shit. Right, because Trump is now protesting his own government.
And that man's name is Alex Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones.
Incredible.
All cops are bad cops.
Fantas Monarch?
I'll tell you who I'm excited to hear to see. It's you, the American people, unified in resistance to the New World Order. We have only begun
all cops
to
are
resist
bad cops.
the globalists.
President Biden.
So true to flavors. Thank you for the 6 months.
Their tyranny. They have tried to steal this election in front of everyone.
Oh,
As
the
I
call.
told them 20
Oh, right,
years
the electoral
ago,
college kind of
I
similar.
tell them again. I don't know how this is going to end, but if they want to fight, they better believe they've got one.
And that.
Yeah, Alex has really been hitting the ground running with this shit. Pro-Trump rally in downtown DC began with the speaker encouraging Trump friends to spread COVID to each other. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. That's
all cops
all
are
of this
bad
is
cops.
fucking beyond
Yeah,
insane.
that's the DC rally. My school sent out an email telling us to stay the F home and good luck posting hi HA.
Nice. Wilco, thank you for the 4 months. Yeah, there's something that's very interesting about this example,
are bad
though.
cops.
Posting
Arnie,
vote.
sir, thank you for the 6 months. In terms of like I mean, this is even in law and how law is interpreted. That there seems to be, like, from the sort of Lockean political tradition, this idea that constitutional rules and sort of the popular sovereignty created through a constitution can transcend context, can continue to emerge, and or continue to provide this sort of defensive layer against what they would refer to as tyranny, and how they would conceptualize tyranny. But in cases like this, what seems clear and what's becoming more clear is like what happens when the way in which those laws are interpreted and perceived totally just fucking allows for those relations of power. They can totally just fucking ignore it and do whatever they want. Like, what do? What happens when the different branches of the system that are supposed to prevent against this fucking don't? Because the people who are in them say we're not going to prevent it. It's such a solid concept, like what a constitution, or like a constitutional democracy is supposed to protect against, seems to like sort of melt away. I don't know. Crazy stuff, folks. Is there any other Loeffler shit or any other stuff with the Senate runoffs we can watch? So yeah, it seems probably blue, although it's too close to call. It's still very close. Political power goes over the barrel of a gun. So true. American cucktocracy. Yeah, so true. I've started saying that way more, both ironically and sincerely. It's so true. I don't know why. We can watch more fucking clips from the Trump rally.
Antifa! Fuck Antifa!
Of course.
Fuck Antifa! Our next speaker is one of the most fiery activists I've
hashtag flame emoji
ever
activist.
known. She's
That's, by the way, that is absolutely in a German translation how like people described like Nazis described Hitler in the 1920s.
Tireless. She's relentless. She will do research. She's the only person I know who does. She watches George Soros speeches for fun. But you know what happened?
Which is awesome research, but you can awesome research to understand how the world works is George Soros speeches.
When she looked,
because you know the George Soros speeches, he says how he's going to control the planet. That's how everyone knows. He's like, you know what, this is how I control the planet. Oh right, thank you for the playlist. Right.
One of those up. She found that he was talking about Chief Justice John Roberts like George Soros owned him. And Lin Wood retweeted it for her.
Oh, the Lin Wood shit is crazy. He's really gone off. Like, he's really on one.
Stops fighting. It consumes her.
A, always B, S, watching
I am so
George
proud
Soros videos.
And lucky that I'm going to marry this woman. Her name's Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, okay, it's his wife.
She's not the liberal actress. She's the awesome Jennifer Lawrence. And I love her dearly. Come up here, baby.
Incredible.
Trump doesn't need their influence. He stands on what's righteous and just. And the more righteous your fight, the more just your fight, the more terror and people are going to come against you. And that's how you know you're doing the right thing and you're on the right side of history. All of you are standing here today on the right side of history. We are the founding fathers of our time. We are standing up against the evil globalists such as George Soros, who thinks he owns our politicians, who thinks he owns Chief Justice John Roberts on the Supreme Court. We don't need
see what she
George
looks like.
Soros in our lives.
Show me what
we
she looks
don't
like.
need globalists in our lives. We don't need the Great Reset. All we need is Jesus Christ and the truth.
That is a fucking trip right there.
My wife is approximately 5 feet tall. If I told you my wife is 125 feet tall, that's what it means to be off by 25 times.
Awesome.
Right?
Thank you for the math.
Second, the ugly truth. The PCR tests are fake. The COVID-19 PCR tests are fake. And if you go to my podcast, you can hear interviews. You can hear the founder of the PCR test, Carrie Mullins, explaining to you the PCR tests are supposed to be calibrated at 17. Someone should
I love how this implies that he got the PCR guy on his podcast.
write this down.
I love the fucking dropping his podcast in his speech.
17
That's
to 20
awesome.
cycles. Those are calibrated at 40 cycles. What does that mean? It means that it's like your speedometer is telling you you're driving 400 miles an hour when you're driving 7 miles an hour.
I love how he just
Fake,
explains all this
inflated
thing, 'cause I don't know what they
cases.
mean.
The models were fake. The PCR tests were fake.
cops
And the
are bad
treatments that
cops.
actually work are being kept from you for fake
Hannah Jonich,
reasons.
thank you
Write
for 2
this
months.
down. I don't want anybody to die from COVID-19, aka the flu. The flu. But
You see, he's got
if you
why is he making
take
those noises?
budesonide, I made a website
Just coughing right into the crowd.
for you. These are doctors that will get it to you. It's called budesonideworks.com. If you text me, we've treated over 3,000 people
Please
with
text
zero
me on my phone
deaths.
number. Oh, Hannah Jonich, thank you for the tier 2. Sorry, I didn't see that. Thank you for the tier 2, 2 months.
So what I'm asking you to do right now is to do the Great Reset in a good way. Okay, we're going to reframe it. Last night, about 150 of us went into Whole Foods, and we dressed up like people that aren't idiots, hiding from a virus that's not deadly. We did not wear a mask. Who here is up to the task of not wearing a
It is so funny though, right? Like, not wearing a mask at Whole Foods is the same as like crossing the St. Lawrence and fighting the British.
mask? I ask you again, who here is up to the task of not wearing a mask? Jesus is king, and it's time to let freedom ring, ladies and gentlemen. Jesus is king, and it's time to let freedom ring.
It's a great one. I'm glad you repeated
We
it.
have
Yeah, this
knows
is
that. Sequoia Smartmatic. And that company was founded by Hugo Chavez in communist Venezuela. Step 3.
It's so funny that which news place got sued by that voting company
Your votes were
because they were
exported
saying this shit.
to Frankfurt. Who knows that?
The Frankfurt School. Oh shit. That's a
To Frankfurt.
that's a great fucking drop.
So what do? I'm going to give everybody 3 action steps.
Newsmax, yeah.
And then we're going to peace out. I'm going to peace out. We can stay here, okay? 1, huge models are fake. You, ugly truth, fake cases, fake case studies, fake tests. Gee, they're grabbing your freedoms. Turn to the person next to you and give them a hug. Someone you don't know. Go hug somebody. Go ahead and spread it out. Mass spreader. It's a mass spreader event. It's a mass spreader event.
That's
it's
so
a mass
true.
Spreader event. There
So
you go. Hug it
true.
out.
You know, when he's right, he's right.
I'm married, but if you want to give me a hug too, or you can do that. Second thing we do, send me a text.
Like, yeah, no,
So what do we-
any just society, you know, this person is fucking in jail for doing that shit. I'm sorry.
I said the Gibsons
That's
are not socialists. We're capitalists. We buy our pencils and we take care of our things well.
this is a classic. Socialism is when you don't buy pencils.
And if any of the other children need anything, you let me know. I'll bring them pencils too, but my kids will be using their own pencils. To the teacher's
What?
office. Then I went to the principal's office. And I said, the Gibsons are not socialists. We're
now, like I say,
yes, Mike Lindell, awesome.
and what's going to happen now, like I say, where the miracle that we're in of all time is, had that not happened on election night, they've been boiling us like a frog for years, and we've done nothing about it. Sat back. They take a little bit of our freedoms all the time. And this is what would have happened if we wouldn't have had that miracle that they misjudged this great president and this great country. Because right now, God's got his hand in all of this. And tomorrow, I want everyone, you need to pray for our vice president to look up to God and say, I need to make a decision, Lord, and to make the right decision for our country.
He does sound like Nancy Ventura.
We need to... I can tell you this, anyone that says, oh, there'll be a civil war, no, there's not, because I'll tell you, I've seen the evidence. I know what's there. Once it's shown, all we're doing is tomorrow they're going to look at just some of it, okay? But when they see even some of it, they're going to go, wow. Even if you're over here on the left, politically wise, you're going to look at that and say, you know what? I don't really like Donald Trump, but he really did win, okay? And you don't have a war when the other side didn't win anything. You're not taking any from them. They were trying to steal it from us. You know, this is a child. This sounds like a fucking child trying to explain this. The wars don't happen if someone doesn't take something from someone else, and we did it. Steal it from us. He really did win. Okay. And you don't have a war when the other side didn't win anything.
You don't have a war when the other side didn't win anything.
You're not taking any from.
And they didn't take anything from us.
They were trying to steal it from us.
They were trying to steal it from us.
You know, and right now I'm telling everyone in this country, you have to 100% believe me when I tell you, Donald Trump was picked for 8 years by God, not 4. And I want everybody, you just keep the faith.
It's literally
God's
like a child.
granted me this big platform, and I just know.
Must not comply. If you don't want to take an experimental biological agent deceptively named a vaccine, you must not allow yourself to be.
Is this like spoken word poetry now?
Be coerced. If you are living in fear of a non-lethal virus, simply buy the same cheap, ordinary medicines used across the world. When you know something to be false, you must reject it, period. When you know something to be true,
that's the funny thing about that. That's like not even anti-vax shit. Obviously, the baby lives matter thing. There's a lot going on in this fucking video. They're not even like. This isn't even vaccine denialism because they're like, it's not even a vaccine.
Not comply.
I mean, it is vaccine denialism, but they're trying to make it not.
If you don't want to take an experimental biological agent deceptively named a vaccine, you must not allow yourself to be coerced. If you are living in fear of a non-lethal virus, simply buy the same cheap, ordinary medicines used across the world. When you know something to be false, you must reject it. Period. When you know something to be true, you must stand up for it, and you must be willing to fight for it. I urge you to mark this day, this moment, as a united return of our nation to the eternal fight for freedom, a commitment to integrity, a resolve to seek the truth in all arenas, and to always act upon it. Americans, God bless America. Must not.
Yeah, it was very awkward delivery.
26.
I don't even. Who the fuck are they even letting up here? Chris
guy.
Khan, thank you for the 5 gift subs. Much appreciated.
16. Here's what I'm going to tell you tonight.
Peter Navarro.
It's all.
Who still works at the White House.
Tomorrow, up on that hill up there.
Dino.
Where we have to make sure.
I don't know what that was. Thank you for the 3 months.
That they look into what has been the theft of this presidential election.
Mic with like.
Now, I consider myself
poets.
both a deplorable and a nerd. Okay, what I've been doing the last month is looking very deeply at just what happened
Yeah, I'm a deplorable. I'm also what you would like to consider a sex
during
nerd.
that election. And here's what happened.
Pablo,
The Democrat Party started a minute after Donald Trump got elected in 2016 on what I call the grand strategy to take down a sitting president. They've been working on this for 4 years. And you know what they did? They targeted 6 states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And they went in there and they spent all sorts of money to change the rules, to change the laws, to elect secretaries of state who would bend and break the law, so that they could stuff the ballot box and steal the election. This is what happens. And what does our mainstream media do? The anti-Trump media? What do? They lie. See no evil. See no evil. Speak no evil.
There you
They
go.
won't even cover the biggest political theft in American and world history.
Bad cops.
Jurados, thank you for the
Stay
7
in
months.
line, liver Canadian boat counts.
Stay in line. I'm currently in line across the border.
Now let's remember what happened in 1960.
As everyone knows.
In 20
Okay, this is a hype train. We'll pause this for a second. If you would like to subscribe, $5 a month, or if you have an Amazon Prime, you can connect to your Twitch account and you get a free subscription. 27 tier 1 emotes, one of which I will add soon, is the Clove emotes, which is me on Klobuchar's face, which is great. Josh Smooth, I think. Thank you for the gift sub. What should I replace it with, Chet? What do we think? Which tier 1 emote do we want to pick out? This is the emote. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Mona Jonas, thank you for 100 bits. We got someone saying bong. You can make it BTV. Oh, that's true. I guess we can do that. Fun, dude. Thank you for the gift sub. Oh yeah, this is a bait. Now, if you haven't picked it up, it's not real. It's fake. I can get rid of the panel emote. That's true. Or yeah, I think May was saying to change it to a BCTV one, which is a good idea. Yeah. Just one panel. Yeah, just that panel. No, yeah, not the whole thing. We love the lizard, don't we, folks? Just love to see it. Let's go to the Neo for a sec. It's not impossible that it's literally Warnock Purdue. But it seems like it's Warnock Kossoff. I'm quieter than the lizard? Always. But I would never speak over the lizard. Clay County, rural black country, came out at 91% of November turnout. And it should be higher, should it not? Make the Kobe one BTV. You can replace the 4 panels in those options. Okay, oh right, yeah, thank you. Yeah, a lot of you, can you still bet on that thing? 'Cause the prediction is will Dems win control? Currently 250,000 channel points on yes, 195,000 on no. Lots of voters, folks. Almost 100 people voting with their posting points. You love to see it. Level 2, folks, if you'd like to contribute to the hype train. Seriously, it's his president. Yeah, how is Ossoff gonna possibly be? How is the establishment how are the Dem establishment possibly gonna decide that Ossoff is presidential material if he actually wins an election? Sierra, thank you for the 5 gift subs. French documentary per subway culture in the 60s. Oh, that's cool. I don't think Biden's gonna be forced to step down. He might decide to though. And if the most obvious answer were for like who runs in 2024. Maya, I think you can give so. Serious business. Thank you for the 4 months. The obvious answer for who runs in 2024 for the Dems is Harris.
All cops are
but like
cops.
Sparky Marky, thank you for the 5 months. She's just not a fucking good candidate. She's not charismatic. We saw with that, remember the thing from like yesterday or two days ago, the like freedom thing. Like, just so, like, who the fuck is that for, She's not a good candidate. There's a reason why she totally ate shit in the primary. So it might be someone else. I mean, if it's her if she gets the nomination in 4 years, they fucking lose. Like, it's a Republican. Yeah, Bernie 2024, baby. Let's go. Got high hopes for 2024, that's true. It is gonna be Pete, you're right. Gustaffer, thank you for the 6 months. Pete is around to stay, baby. He's gonna be here. He got like a Secretary of Transportation is pretty, he's got staying power. He's not gonna go away. Pete is probably not 2024. Vice presidents have a pretty bad record of becoming president. That's true. Although, fucking listen. Who's the president-elect? President-of-elect. Who's the president-elect? Initially, they did the 26. He will be Kamala's VP. That's true, because it's a woman's turn.
All cops are bad cops.
Oh, the music is super loud. Sorry. I can turn it down. Base Falco, thank you for 10 months. I haven't had this computer for too long, so the mixing stuff is still have to readjust.
All cops are bad cops.
Turn it back up.
Zizek on ketamine, thank you for 4 months. I'm sorry, I'll turn it back up. More lizard noise. More lizard music. Someone asked if you think anyone's going to be able to channel the Bernie base. I mean, maybe. And there is a question of to what extent there is like a Bernie base. I think the bigger question was like, how is Bernie going to develop a base for the federal, the national election? China's condemned one of the nation's top bankers to death after he's found guilty of accepting. Look, China's a competent capitalist nation state. They are able to crack down on like individual capitalists who don't have class consciousness. I think there is. The question is, what will the significant Bernie base look like in 4 years? And will it coalesce into a particular person? Which is possible. Not impossible, but who fucking knows? I will say, yeah, like, China knows how to crack down on some billionaires. So respect to them for that, for knowing how to run capitalism. Because, the state of most Western capitalist states is that they don't have a particularly competent capacity to, like, crack down on individual capitalists who aren't working close enough to, the interests of the capitalist class. Thank you for the hype train, everybody. Saddle landslide was not close to it. Yeah, I think it seems pretty clear, yeah. that both Dems are gonna win. The question is, Ossoff really. It's Warnock seems pretty solid. Although, you know, that's not too solid. But yeah. This doesn't, you know. Okay, thank you for the hype train, everybody. If you would also like to, I have a Patreon where I do podcast stuff / live posting. $2 a month for the premiums. And it's more efficient to give me money on there because Patreon takes less of a cut. Percent reported is like what, like 50%? Okay, let me close that. Oh, more of these. We got more, baby.
Now, why
Oh, it's loud, sorry.
would they be doing that? Because they know they're corrupt, they know they're criminals, but worst of all, they know that we know.
Your story audiobook episodes were good. Thank you. Yeah, I tried writing some like fiction, although it's still sort of not really fiction. And I think it turned out well. I can link that too. It's on like Medium and stuff. But I did the most recent podcast episode is me just reading it out. It's just like an audiobook.
Unfortunately for them, they're not winning right now. They may be cheating, but they're not winning. They thought they could steal this election and get away with it. I anticipate there will be more than 1 million Trump voters in Washington, D.C.
Which is not true.
They thought they...
How big is the fucking... Oh, yeah, and there's a new QAnon Anonymous episode with me. I read a book and gave essentially a book report of a Q person. Like, how many fucking people are showing up to that rally tomorrow? How many people?
They could fake a pandemic.
Like, it's not going to be that much. I'm sorry. It's not going to be that many people.
And keep you locked in your home, but yet I see thousands of beautiful, smiling faces without a mask, not in fear. And the theme is 4 more years for Donald Trump. And while I think all of us can get behind that, I'd like to see 1,000 more years of human freedom and 1,000 more years.
Yeah, would you say that your empire you would like to last 1,000 years?
Of the United States of America.
Would you classify this social organization as a Reich of sorts? That's lasting about 1,000 years?
You know, Nancy Pelosi just said...
Oh, he's got to wait for them to boo. I mean, yeah, it's like, you don't have to... It seems, it's like very evident how fascistic it is, right? It's like, it's not even on its language, just... You don't even need the specific... Like, its aesthetics, the way people are speaking, the chant, like, it's all
You know
extremely...
what? I think that would be a good start.
Yeah, and then the locking her up would be a good start is like Day of the Rope shit.
And that man's name is Alex Jones.
Oh, yeah,
Ladies
yeah, right. Okay, we watched this. That man's name, Alex Jones. Okay. Wait, hold on. Okay. What else can we watch? Yeah, it's rough. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about the march not generating people, because I guess there still is energy in the Trump base, but it doesn't particularly seem like that energy is converting to any electoral shit, clearly. and clearly by the fact that the rule vote isn't showing up. But maybe like a rally or something would indicate or would translate that energy in a definitely not a million people, of course not. Would translate that type of energy better than like, an election, especially because they think the election is rigged. But the question is, how many people are going to fucking go out to see it? Because it's obviously easy to think that it's rigged or whatever, but to actually want to do anything about it, I think a very limited amount of Trump supporters actually care enough about it. Is there any more? Any more shit on the Georgia stuff from the Majority Report? Some kind of lost cause mythology where some Republicans thought Nixon was an honorable leader. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna like Trump still for a long time. He, like, for a decent proportion of the country, he will be viewed as like a martyr or something whose election was stolen. But again, like, half of Republican voters in 2008 thought that Obama stole it through like Acorn, like half of them, which indicates, and this is probably a very unscientific way of quantifying this, like probably only about a 25% increase from 2008 to now in terms of how many people think the election was rigged, which is way less than you would have expected. Way less than you would have expected of a difference. And, McCain conceding and not saying that the election was rigged. So there is definitely an extent to which a lot of these things are sort of imminent to the system and its movements, and Trump is simply accelerating them, meaning, of course, that even if Trump hadn't existed, these problems would still be present, if slightly less obvious. It doesn't seem like it'll transform to anything possibly outside of AstroTurf Tea Party style psychosis. Yeah, it could be a crisis for the GOP. Maybe we'll see another party sort of come out of this, which is like anti-Republican right-wing stuff. Because politics is like aesthetic. And like I was talking about this briefly with Matt Crispin in that QAnon Anonymous episode we interviewed him, where like if politics is aesthetic, then the way that you see like a serious change in party politics is on an aesthetic ground. And if that's the case, then it wouldn't be a surprise that like purely aesthetic, non-material cause for a split in the right-wing vote in America, which is, whether the election is rigged. Nothing actually related to policy meaningfully. I guess the one thing is the checks, of course. But you see a basically aesthetic division there that creates an entirely new party. Maybe the new party is more populist or whatever, more like actual National Socialists. But that what could happen as a result of that is allowing for some split in the Democratic Party too, with the progressives going their own way and not seeing it as necessary to cling to the Democrats, and being able to potentially see like an ability to gain power outside of their own the Democratic establishment. That would be probably the best case scenario that comes from this. Yeah. What else can we watch? Because there is still a shit ton. We can look at there's a playlist someone made of a lot of the videos I missed. Oh yeah, and we were watching this War on Christmas video. Maya made this playlist. Thank you. We can continue with this for a bit. Just general updates. Yeah, Osov's still just like
all cops are bad cops.
Pretty face.
Yeah, PGTOW, progressives going their way. Absolutely, so true. Aurelia Oster, thank you for the year. So yeah.
Holiday parties. The war on Christmas.
Whoever's watching this right now, think of something you love that brings you a sense of peace and decency, and they will somehow link it to the patriarchy.
What is his fucking face always like this?
And the rest of their politically correct nonsense.
Christianity is being bigoted against. We're under attack.
You couldn't even say Merry Christmas at Walmart.
Obama said Merry Christmas a few times, but he still made sure to neuter the Christmas cards and also the Christmas decorations at the White House.
The Christmas cards are being castrated by Obama.
What we're seeing happening has been a recent phenomenon. The war on Christmas, the war against religious liberty. Of course.
It's so funny how, like, sort of right Freud was about that. But that the castration is more symbolic.
It's a war on Christmas. Christmas has lost all meaning thanks to cultural Marxism.
Oh, it's those bloody cultural Marxists ruining everything
really
again.
Funny.
That's why society's getting worse. It can't pop.
Oh yeah, Tulsi went on Tucker Carlson to talk about how, like, women are biologically defined. What fucking idiots. I don't understand why she ever had appeal. Like, how fucking stupid you have to be to think she's a good politician.
Possibly be because of the policies of the people who keep getting elected.
I don't
But don't
get it.
worry,
I
peace-loving
have no
citizens.
clue.
I'm here to lead the charge in fighting back against these imaginary ghosts. So grab a
she's
slice
hot,
of
that's it.
anonymous holiday meat and settle into your festive season Anderson shelter before the political correctness bombs hit. Because it's time for the war on Christmas. Oh, I won.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
In most Western countries, the winter season plays host to many religious and cultural traditions. Some people say the phrase Happy Holidays exists as a way of trying to be more inclusive to other people's traditions in the modern era, but this is inaccurate. I did literally 5 minutes of Googling and found Happy Holidays being used as far back as 1863, and who knows how far back further it would have turned out to have gone if I'd done any more research. It turns out that people like to have more than one phrase to say.
Oh yeah.
It's what
It probably is double dem now. It's seeming pretty likely.
why people put season's greetings on stuff. This isn't blasphemy, it's language. Did you know we've been writing Xmas instead of Christmas for thousands of years? The X isn't trying to secularize the religion by removing the word Christ or something. It's actually the Greek letter Chi, which has been a Christogram, an abbreviation of Jesus Christ, for about 1700 years or something. I don't know, I'm not a religion studier. An extremely popular song from Theologian, that was the word. A very popular song from as far back as 1942 was Happy Holiday. You might know this song, or at least one of its 65 million covers. It was originally sung by Bing Crosby, who was, by all accounts, a pretty devoted Catholic. Bing was one of the faces of Christmas for decades. His Christmas radio broadcasts were hugely popular. That song was the opening and closing theme of his Christmas Sing with Bing program, which aired every Christmas Eve for almost 10 years. So sure, Happy Holidays is a useful catch-all term, since there are a lot of holidays going on, makes sense to use it in some contexts, but saying it isn't actually a new phenomenon. It's been a normal thing for Christians to say to each other for many years. And that piece of knowledge is one of the finest gifts I can bring. Parum-pa-pum-pum.
That's one of those names that is only used like 100 years ago.
Peace on earth! These are all indisputable and quite interesting historical facts. But not everyone puts the truth on their Christmas list. Some people want to open their stockings and find an explanation for why they're angry all the time. The big originator of the War on Christmas theory
was it
is
O'Reilly?
Bill O'Reilly. I couldn't find footage of Bill's original War on Christmas segment, but handily the script Bill reads from in these segments was posted as an article on Fox's website. The segment was titled Christmas Under Siege, in which he made exaggerated claims about how various holiday parades were doing away with Christmas floats.
He really
New York has a holiday
O'Reilly really ruined a generation of people.
Tree instead of a Christmas tree, and how Macy's stopped greeting people with Merry Christmas. They said a different thing. O'Reilly then went on to fantasize that this was part of a plot to diminish people's faith in religion, saying that quote-unquote secular progressives wanted to destroy religious oppositions to their policies, such as gay marriage, abortion, and drug legalization. And to bring about this horrible nightmare future, it was important to destroy religion in the public arena. arena. Thus, Christian displays like Christmas must be scaled back because the connection with Judeo-Christian beliefs is bad for the secular agenda. Ah,
So
yes,
true.
the famously Judeo-Christian belief in Christmas. The secular movement has influence in the media, among some judges and politicians. Americans will lose their country if they don't begin to take action. Any assault on Judeo-Christian philosophy should be fought. Organizations like thomasmore.org and the Alliance Defense Fund in Phoenix are fighting back, but need your help. The USA cannot defeat terrorism and any other evil without a strong traditional foundation that clearly
So they need to fight to be able to fight Judeo-Christo-Muslim beliefs. They have to fight the
defines right
secularists.
from wrong. The struggle today is not about Christmas, but about the spirit
Heavily Republican Cherokee County Dems pick up around 2 points compared to
of our
Biden.
country. Bill is writing about how Macy's say a different thing now. It's basically the conservative version of slam poetry. Take something that technically has...
Which, again, its legacy, we saw that video from before, from that rally of that girl who's basically a fucking slam poet. That's all fucking... That Bill O'Reilly really started that shit.
happened, and then contort it until it's an attack on the very soul of our society, and we need to defend ourselves. And that's why we need your attention and the money we'll get from our sponsors for getting eyes on their peppermint-flavored Play-Doh or ribbed for her pleasure coffee machines. Bill's early rhetoric forms the basis for all the madness to come. It's always stores not saying Christmas as much, stuff like that. Holiday wish list? Oh no, God is dead and we have killed him.
The other side outnumbers that. I mean, Christian, Judeo-Christian people who believe in that philosophy outnumber the secularists, maybe 6 to 7 to 1.
Oh, my religion has more subscribers than yours. By the end of his tenure, Bill was straight up just saying the names of companies which were trying to slit the throat of Christmas.
Barnes & Noble, Best Buy, Foot Locker, The Gap.
Yeah, the biggest threat to Western civilization is the Gap.
The Limited, Nordstrom.
Shopping on Amazon.
This year's list was handily provided to Bill by the American Family Association. The AFA website is a series of articles about how only the left does violence because they've never heard of mass shooting statistics. LGBT people are the real bullies because, a woman refused to accept her children were trans and they stopped wanting to talk to her. Hallmark and Chick-fil-A are the devil now because they showed a lesbian wedding in a commercial or something. And how VeggieTales is back. Oh, and also tons of war on Christmas bullshit.
Baldwin County was prettier in November. It's now Ossoff. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, all of these basically show double Dem. So it's good to see. It's good to see now that Dems not having control of the Senate is no longer an excuse. For why they can't get progressive policy.
Him stealing Bill's old shtick. 3 guys you've never heard of discuss the secular
time,
push
baby.
to scrub
Let's
away the root
go.
word of Christ in Christmas.
There was a war on Christmas we were noticing.
Some people may say, well, that's not really a big deal, is it? Well, we thought it was part of the secularist push to scrub all references to Christianity from our culture.
Yeah, we've heard all this before. The secularists want to destroy Christianity, and they're doing it by rewording a few things at Christmas. But the AFA, unlike Fox, don't have advertisers. They survive through donations and selling things on their website. And you bet they've got a way of capitalizing on the war on Christmas. They want you to buy a button that reminds people that Jesus Christ exists.
Well, it is the Christmas season, and we've got these.
That's called Praxis right
that
there.
we are offering.
Honestly, how can people know you're a real member of the Jesus fan club if you aren't repping his holy merch?
You can get your 10-pack of these buttons for $15, and just go to afa.net.
Jesus came for every single one of you.
Store. AFA.store.net, AFA.store.net.
Which brings us to the AFA's yearly naughty or nice list. One of the most deludedly self-righteous lists I've ever read. And I've read my top 10 games of the decade list. Both versions of Dark Souls 2 are on there out of spite. Fuck you. We are not friends. Click on any naughty company name for details and contact information. They want you to send emails to some guy who works at Office Depot to try to get them to write Christmas on things more. If a company has items associated with Christmas, but did not use the word Christmas, then the company is considered as censoring Christmas. That's the rubric. If you sell me a cracker at Christmas, but you don't call it a Christmas cracker, you're a secularist terrorist who's trying to stab the Christmas family. For many years, Bill, with the help of the AFA, was the reigning champion of the fight to save Christmas. He was the only man standing up to defend Christian values, which are the reason he knows right from wrong so well. But then in 2017, he got fired for allegedly sexually harassing at least 6 of his female co-workers. So Bill wasn't exactly a great follower of his religious teachings, was he? It's very clear why the war on Christmas argument is so attention-grabbing. It's telling people that their religion is under attack and we need those traditional values or our country will fall to terrorism or other evil.
Like,
people will
have a Christians, like white Christians have a oppression complex because like the start of their belief system is predicated on like, you know, the Roman Empire trying to eliminate their belief system.
Will pay attention to your show when you
and
say
they really just want it to continue
things
to
like
exist.
that, which leads to increased viewership and higher value of your advertising spots. You might even get people to buy a button or get some wealthy cretins to donate comical amounts of money to you. However, I don't think this alone gets to the true core.
Yeah, no, it's looking very... I mean, it's definitely Warnock, but yeah, it's looking ass off. I guess people are voting their ass off, am I right, folks? Yeah.
Of why this belief survives so well in the minds of more extreme conservatives. So we're gonna have to go deeper. And then it says in brackets, Inception horn noise. Oh, I wasn't supposed to read that. Maybe to understand this line of thinking further, we need to go in search of even more ridiculously false and silly versions and see how it functions there.
First, I want to start off with the central theme, which is the war on Christmas.
Incredible.
Oh, hi, Paul. In this classic video from 2017, which is a yearly rewatch for me, it's just a hilarious shambles in so many ways. Paul Joseph Watson spends 15 minutes of what's left of his life, and you only get one life, this is it, complaining that there's a Tesco commercial with too much diversity in it.
They called it a Christmas ad, or at least it was supposed to be that. Didn't have any symbols of Christianity in the ad whatsoever. It did have a gay couple, hijabi Muslims, all this other guff. No actual Christian symbol, because of course we can't have that anymore, can we? At least like put a vicar in it or something. Or a cross. Anything Christian. It's a
is he even Christian? There's no way Paul believes in God.
Christmas ad, for God's sake.
Alright, fine, Paul. I'll see what I can do. Approved for broadcast in InfoWars land. Wait, Paul also stipulated that a religious figure would suffice. Okay, how about this? Hey guys, that was the College of Cardinals on the phone. I've just been elected Pope. There, is that religious enough for you? And if that's not good enough, I bet I can undo some more catechisms. But hang on a second. It's easy to make fun of Paul. He's made sure of that. But let's seriously look at the idea there is some kind of manipulation happening with the lack of Christian iconography in this commercial. Because this begs a deeper question, which is, should Christmas commercials prominently display Christian stuff like crosses and priests? Because I haven't seen a convincing argument that the answer to that question is yes. Because even in commercials long before the supposed war on Christmas, you can still see a seemingly deliberate choice not to explicitly invoke Christianity, even when the intended audience would be mostly Christian. Because it turns out Christians have been having this exact discussion for a long time now, even before anyone knew what political correctness was. Historically, plenty of Christians have found that their religion being tied to a product being sold to them is kind of crass and disgusting. There's a Fox and Friends segment from a few years ago that
it's so cool how that's not becoming the case anymore.
It's this discrepancy in an amazing...
And it's like, yes, we do see the truth of God through the Tesco commercial. I do go to Walmart and feel my Lord's holy embrace. You know, in the religious iconography aisle. That is how I am connected to God, is through corporations.
Catholic priest on to discuss the war on Christmas, but despite how hard they tried to push him, he wasn't annoyed that things weren't Christian enough.
You'd be fine if it said Merry Christmas, but it doesn't. It says Happy Holidays, or things are simply red or green.
Well, it's not so much that bothers me. It's more that the consumerism and the pressure to just shop.
He was much more concerned with how consumerism had eroded the religious meaning of the holiday.
Which is, he's a much better Christian, because and this is why the Pope doesn't like capitalism, is because it makes it harder to live in like a incredibly Christian or incredibly religious society.
Consumerism, I think that's a problem for me.
The obvious response, though, is like that this inclination wants to go before capitalism because it's much easier for the Pope to have control in like a feudal society.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the stores that have taken Christmas out of their mottos. J. Crew.
You can see the Fox people had really planned for a very different kind of interview. They'd prepared a graphic all about the mottos that didn't say Christmas anymore, but not everyone is interested in fabricating.
Yes, capitalism, one of the things it does is it really does destroy like quote-unquote traditional or pre-capitalist social relationships. It like re-territorializes itself to create like equally or potentially even more shitty relationships.
A culture war for attention. Some people actually want to think about things.
I guess it bothers me that they're using sort of overtly Christian tropes and themes like believe and marry and things like that that are associated with Christmas, but they're using it to just market goods. Now, I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just a way to appeal to as many people as possible, but it really kind of denudes the holiday.
Everything's solid
sort of religious import.
exactly.
And it seems that for many devout Christians, the concern isn't that commercials aren't Christian enough, it's the exact opposite, that commercials are leaning a bit too heavily on Christian ideas and themes in order to sell products. But the Catholic Church is notoriously full of commie scumbags. It just hasn't been the same since the Byzantine papacy. You don't have to get it, don't worry. Sometimes you write jokes just for you.
Now, I'm not a fancy big-time Christian boy, but maybe commercializing the religious aspect of Christmas in order to sell people things is bad?
And the more generic holiday themes in stores and commercials is a good way of respecting Christians' religious traditions. And it's been that way since long before 2017. Paul's whole narrative here is based on the assumption that commercials...
The Surfs! Thank you for the raid, Lance. Shout out to Surfs if you have not followed them yet. I hope everyone is doing well. We're just chilling. I guess following the race in Georgia, although it seems like it's pretty clear who's going to win. And watching the new-ish, because I haven't gotten to it yet because I took a break, H1 video.
Loved to invoke Christianity until Twitter invented social justice. But as we've seen, this is some...
People shouldn't forget that these races wouldn't be that important if Dems had been more competent. Oh, yeah, I mean, there were definitely Senate elections that the Dems had no business losing. That they did. It shouldn't be this close, but, you know.
Assumption is objectively false, and inventing an imaginary past that's been stolen to justify present foolishness is a real Rachel move.
That's a classic Rachel move of inventing a fake collective past that one must attempt to, at all costs, even potentially violently, get back to in some way.
Gina Phalange. Facts
and
data are inconvenient for Paul, so he doesn't like to bring them up. But I saw something interesting that I thought was relevant, so I'm going to talk about it while I have the chance. There's a great paper by the National Center for Social Research, which has been gathering data about how people approach their religion for about 35 years now, and what they discovered is quite interesting. In the last 30 years, less and less people identify as Christian, at least according to the most accurate data. This corresponds with an increase in people identifying specifically as unreligious or atheist. Since the 2010s, there's been decisively more non-religious people in Britain than Christians even. Most of these people probably still celebrate Christian traditions. They're a common part of English culture. I'm an atheist and I still celebrate Christmas. But all these folks probably aren't putting crosses anywhere in their houses. And really, who's to say that that's what Christians do? Not everyone thinks that celebrating their faith requires putting a cross in their house. People's relationships with their religion aren't that simple. There's no Christmas handbook mandating you hang a cross up for the Yuletide. In fact, the actual Christian handbook seems to prioritize worshipping in private.
I love referring to the Bible as a Christian handbook.
Unlike those darn pagans who love to babble on and on. What a weird thing to specify. I guess what I'm trying to say is, for most people, this commercial is an accurate representation of how people behave at Christmas. It's just not about throwing crosses around, you know? But while we're on the topic of representation, I can't help but notice the specific lack of lightsabers or delicious space milk anywhere in this commercial. Even though, according to census data, almost 1% of Britons self-identify as Jedi.
Let me be clear. God is dead, and I have killed him.
Probably not after this Christmas, though.
No! Stop it! No!
Paul's rant kind of goes on for a while. He doesn't really have a point he's getting to, so much as he's mad a commercial has Muslims in it for a few seconds. He's mad it's a Twitter moment, and some people are...
Yeah, it is funny that, like, modern conservative, like, opinion opinion piece writers and quote-unquote public intellectuals, although conservative intellectual is sort of an oxymoron, all put incredibly large amounts of stock in consumerism as like the place in which there is a battleground between religion and non-religion. That there seems to be this weird like this affect of like, I get all my ideas through the TV screen and through commercials, and so there's nothing wrong with that, and it's just how society is, and you measure where we are in relation to those commercials. That's what they're indicative of. There aren't things that are too sacred to be seen through commercials, because that's all the world is.
Are applauding the diversity. He's sure that a
It's all it is what you see through the TV screen.
YouTube video being brigaded by his followers and getting a couple of thousand dislikes.
69% reporting, nice. Yeah, I mean, so it's like definite. It's definitely Warnock. Ossoff, it still seems like it's only widening. So look, I guess the needle was right, folks. The needle finally comes back and does its job.
Likes indicates
although I shouldn't say that too soon.
It's very unpopular, and so on. You can even see in his face that he's struggling to really articulate a decent justification to be angry.
Of course, there was a backlash
it's 50-50.
to the
It either happens or it doesn't.
Clash, which basically peaked yesterday with Twitter. Twitter came out and said this was one of their featured stories in their Twitter Moments, which of course is on the homepage when anybody goes onto Twitter.
Imagine this being your life. It's stuff like this that really gives context to tweets where
he's complaining about Twitter and the Twitter homepage as if it's the world, because it's like for Paul it is his world. That's all that there is. He's in Plato's cave and he's chained up and he's pointing at the shadows. And he's like, "Well, I want the shadow to have a cross on it," even though he's not religious. That's what, and then if the cross, that's what the real world is.
Mad at black celebrities talking about,
and it's like, well, you're looking at shadows in a fucking cave. You're not in the sunlight
racism,
world.
Calling them sanctimonious crybabies. Saying Britain still has racism is annoying. What's way more important and pressing is the Tesco Christmas commercial. He's also very sure this stuff isn't Bill O'Reilly nonsense anymore. It used to be, but it's real now.
It's no longer some Bill O'Reilly meme when it's actually happening.
He keeps saying this over and over. It's like boomer dubstep.
I remember 10, 15 years ago, this is something that Bill O'Reilly, these other neocons would constantly bring up. People would debunk it and say it's a false concern, it's being exaggerated. There's no war on Christmas. What are you talking about? This is crazy. Well, fast forward to 2017.
Everything Bill O'Reilly said, yeah, that was crazy. But fast forward to the Tesco Christmas commercial. Right. The thing about InfoWars videos, which are recorded live on the actual show, the ones where Alex is also there and Paul's just calling in, is that Paul is fundamentally not a very good live speaker. I'm not saying this because I disagree with his political views or to make fun of him. He's a poor public speaker. It's just not one of his skills. And that's fine. Some people are just too self-conscious for it. That's why he writes his videos in advance and edits them with snappy cuts and always is yelling. It makes his work hold people's attention, but he just can't maintain that energy in a live setting. Worse, his clear anxieties about what he's doing start to come through when the spotlight's on him too long. Sometimes he workshops his tweets in the pub with his friends before he posts them. No, I'm serious. He shows the tweet on his phone to his friends and asks, "Is this okay? Should I post it?" Looking for some kind of approval with an anxious look on his face. And it's a tweet petulantly quoting Stormzy out of context in order to imply that he hates all white people, and his remaining real-life friends nod and go, "Yeah, sure, man. I don't get why it's a big deal to you, but I guess it's for your job, right?" And then one of them sends me a message about it later. But anyway, my point is...
No, wait.
I guess it's for your job, right? And then one of them sends me a...
I choose to believe this is real. That's very funny. Paul had a normal one in the
message about today. It later.
What happened this time?
But anyway, my point is, Paul isn't that great at this whole live entertainment thing, and there's a reason Alex Jones uses him as sporadically as he can on his shows. He's only got about 5 things to say, and he has to keep saying them over and over. So eventually Alex realizes he needs to jump in and starts interrupting him with points of his own.
It's a Christmas ad, for God's sake. But here's the kicker, right?
It's like having a Christmas ad where you drag Santa Claus behind a car.
Yeah, there've been
And then the
newspaper-
actual, like, the Alex Jones is like a performer, however despicable a human being he is. That's why he has such an incredibly large, like, base now. Because he is like a live performer. He knows how to do that shit.
articles about it all week.
Well,
Not
Paul,
because they're
this is
Muslim.
cultural appropriation. This is what the left's all
He looks
about
so
is
sad.
overriding, taking control of everything, dominating culture.
all the headlines were like, oh, you're so offended at seeing Muslims. It's like, no, I'm offended at the fact, or I'm perplexed at the fact there's no...
It'd be like if you had an
Christian
ad
people.
saying, this holiday season, support Ramadan at your local halal stores, and then it showed guys in Knights Templar uniforms at the Muslim store.
The Muslim store.
I love Muslim stories.
The other
I
big
love
claim he's
shopping at
making in
those
this War on
places.
Christmas bit also is to do with
Oh, he
Tesco.
looks so
Paul went
sad.
to a Tesco's and noticed, to his horror, that not enough things said Christmas, so he whipped out his phone and took some pictures to complain about on Twitter later. There's a funny bit in this video where Alex says he should have documented it, not realizing Paul already had.
They've got these Christmas cards, Alex. They've renamed them. They're now called charity cards.
Paul, you got to go back in and get some footage of this.
Well, I've got the pictures and I tweeted them, but people said...
Just incredibly poor communication going on at InfoWars. The tweets
Alex Jones
themselves
does
are
not
really
give a fuck
something.
about Paul.
Was in Tesco earlier. Their entire... I can't do his voice. Their entire Christmas shelf, cards, wrapping paper, confectionery, not a single mention of the word Christmas. Not a single one. Christmas cards are now called charity cards. Pathetic. Truly pathetic. Then he added Tesco. Yeah, this is Tesco speaking. I'm sorry, Paul. We'll put Christmas on the crack. And before all you pointy heads claim they're called charity cards because some proceeds go to charity, that's always been the case. But they were still called Christmas cards. It's not just the commercial. At Tesco has capitulated to politically correct douchebaggery. And then
This
there's
is
a
the
picture.
thing about like shouting at people, particularly shouting at companies on Twitter, does not do anything particularly, unless it's like a particularly egregious thing. You're probably not gonna get anything done. And this is like a horseshoe theory thing because like lefties do this too.
Crackers.
Where they think that they can get change done by like adding a company on Twitter.
And they're just called crackers, you know, because that's...
It's worse on the right because the right explicitly believes that politics is downstream from culture, and like some on the left only implicitly believe it through how they act.
The name. They're not even calling them Christmas crackers anymore.
But it's so
The war on
absurd. Like adding Tesco.
Christmas used to be some far-right evangelical Bill O'Reilly. Jesus Christ, Paul,
Now
we
you've
get
done
it.
it.
You don't have to say it that many times. Truly saddening.
Yeah,
After
no, it
all
seems
these years,
pretty
Tesco have
clear.
finally started the war on Christmas
Yeah,
for
it's
real.
definitely
There's
worn
no
off,
Christmas
and then probably
anywhere in Tesco anymore. Not a single one. However, eagle-eyed viewers, well, frankly, eyed viewers
The
who
accounting
take a look at the
passes
photograph
time
for more
for the
than a
secretary
nanosecond
required
might
to
start to
consider
notice things
practice.
Paul somehow didn't notice when he was literally standing there looking at them. For example, if you zoom in on one of his own pictures, you can actually see Merry Christmas written on some of the crackers. Some people went into their local Tesco and found that Christmas was written everywhere. Some people pointed out that these charity cards were in a display marked Christmas cards, and still others looked at packs of these charity cards and found that some of them say Merry Christmas on them. Tesco also has Christmas all over its website, where it happens to refer to the charity cards as charity Christmas cards. The website also refers to crackers as Christmas crackers. Not a single one. These things were mentioned to Paul immediately in response to the tweets when he made them a few years ago, and good fun was had by all laughing at this sad middle-aged man taking pictures in Tesco to whine about. By far the funniest bit of this video is when they cut to a feed of Paul's tweet thread about the Tesco stuff, and when they're scrolling down, they accidentally scroll to the tweet pointing out Christmas is literally on
It
the
literally says Merry Christmas.
packaging. And then whoever's doing the screen capture panics, zooms out and scrolls down one more, and it's the one pointing out Christmas is on the website. And they just have to awkwardly fade back to Paul, saying it's not all made up, this is definitely real.
Now, I mean, this is not some
That's
kind of
so
Bill
cool.
O'Reilly meme from the early 2000s
How
anymore.
incompetent.
This is actually happening.
No, I get it, Paul.
I
It's
mean, I
not
guess
just
it
Bill
makes
O'Reilly
sense.
anymore. You made that point already. Move on.
This is a deliberate Orwellian process
It's Orwellian,
of
baby.
eliminating words, changing language for the purposes of some lame nod at political correctness.
Okay, some of you might be confused at this point, so let's just get this straight. The far left, who, as we all know, run Tesco, are trying to undermine culture because they're worried about sounding racist. So they're doing this by not letting stores put Christmas anywhere, except in the stores, the products in the stores, and on the website. There, sorted. See? It's the Marxists at it again.
I went into Tesco on Saturday,
Marxists.
went to the Christmas section of the store. Not one mention of Christmas. They don't even mention the word Christmas.
Paul, of course they did. That's how you know it's the Christmas section. That's why every year I know exactly where the elves are. You can't hide from me. Now, there is one minor thing worth talking about here. One teensy tiny thing that Paul might not have thought about, which is that one of the reasons why Christmas isn't written on everything is because you already know it's for Christmas. All the Christmas stuff is only in stores in the Christmas season for you to buy for Christmas. They're neatly arranged in special red aisles so you know where to look for the Christmas stuff. Putting Christmas on every single thing is just pointless. This isn't even to do with political correctness. It's just basic store design. They don't feel the need to acknowledge Christmas on the label because Christmas is being acknowledged at every other point in this transaction. Oh no, the label of this wrapping paper doesn't say Christmas wrapping paper. Help, I'm being tricked into forgetting my religion exists. Oh, Christmas is written all over the fucking wrapping paper? Oh, well, I guess I'll celebrate Christmas again this year. God, the cultural Marxists had better get their act together if they're gonna win this war. Fuck! There. That's probably structurally stable, right? Now, one might say, it's not fair to go after an old InfoWars video. What if InfoWars have spontaneously become smart and rational now, and cleverly moved on from a topic that they got obliterated on when people looked at their own photos? Well, yeah, they did. They dropped the topic and decided to move on to doing real journalism. I'm kidding, they did another one this year. Alex Jones goes to the Texas state capitol to witness the city of Austin's Christmas tree and expose the
It's so funny how, like, one of the things that Trump's presidency did was turn someone like Alex Jones, who's supposed to be this, like, you know, against all types of government, they're all, you know, it's all conspiracy, you know, believing that the deeply evangelical conservatives in America are like partially responsible for 9/11. This type of, like, turning him just into like a quote unquote respectable conservative in terms of his politics.
Christian agenda hidden in plain sight. The banner beneath the tree that reads Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. Merry Christmas. And it's about Jesus.
Like someone who, 20 years ago, is, equally as absurd and cut off from reality, but like would visit Bohemian Grove, or what is it, Bohemian Grove?
Not the big corporations.
To try to like expose how they're all like secretly in like a cult.
And the Chi-Com
is now just like yelling in this square about how they're trying to take away Christmas.
And the globalist.
I think the existence of videos like this really crystallizes what the war on Christmas is actually about. Bullshit artists like InfoWars have to play a very careful game to survive and make money. InfoWars can't make money as a news website because they don't actually do any journalism, so no one comes to them for that. And they can't easily sell advertisements on their website or videos because, for unknown reasons, barely anyone wants to be associated with them.
It starts out with don't use the N-word. Well, I don't use that, so okay. And then next it's, don't say Merry Christmas, say Happy Holidays.
Yeah, those are the same thing. I never thought of it that way.
Very
Imagine
connected.
a shoe company looking for somewhere to advertise and seeing one of these videos and
Thank you, Alex Jones, for not using the N-word.
it's Alex Jones going, remember when they tricked us into not saying the N-word anymore? Well, Happy Holidays is just like that. They're probably going to say no. But Alex Jones has this problem, which is that he really, really likes expensive watches. He loves to wear Rolexes on his show, and according to court records, he once bought 4 of them in a single day. The cheapest one I could find him wearing cost around $12,000. So obviously he needs a lot of money to live.
Oh,
and
his studio is like...
How's he gonna do that? Why, he'd have to develop some kind of business model that revolves around exploiting gullible people. So their best bet is to target a very specific demographic. In this case, conservatives with a conspiratorial streak, validate them by telling them that they're right, and then going, hey, if you want to become even more powerful, check out our pills. Also, get all you need to completely stuff Christmas stockings this year with our Christmas Mega Pack.
So it starts with...
It's so funny, like... Going from trying to sneak into Bohemian Grove to selling Christmas mega packs.
Don't say Merry Christmas. And it ends with, they create an orthodox centralized system as well that is going to be welded into the new fascist left West. And out of that marriage, you will have the communist socialist system of Islam merge with that.
I mean, this sentence doesn't make sense.
true.
It just doesn't. It's a list of keywords. But just making fun of how dumb this all is would be to ignore why he still does it and why it works. On topics like this, I find myself constantly coming back to a great paper by Cormac Hurley, a principal researcher.
Yeah, it's just like the next Bohemian Grove Alex is going to go to and yell at them about why they're not celebrating Christmas right now.
At Microsoft about Nigerian email scams and how they function. You know how the Nigerian email scams usually have very poor language usage and grammar, and even say they're from Nigeria, even though if you Google Nigeria...
The point is that it's so ridiculous that the people that you trick about it, are probably going to give you money, so you don't have to waste time.
One of the first results is email scam, and that makes them an obvious scam to most people. This is actually part of how the scam works, because their targets are the sort of people who won't notice the writing problems, because they tend to be the sort of people who end up giving them money. If you're smart enough to not fall for that part, they don't want you wasting their time, and they've quite smartly selected you out of the process by writing poorly. Since gullibility is unobservable, the best strategy is to get those who possess this quality to self-identify. InfoWars is following a similar business practice. Alex Jones's objective is to make money to sustain his expensive lifestyle where he eats watches or something, and to do that he needs to target an audience who will be fooled into buying his overpriced stuff. So by talking absolute nonsense, yes, Jones is turning away everyone with half a brain, but people with half a brain generally are quite hard to sell the world's most expensive protein bars, Ultimate Fish Oil, and Ultra 12. Jones is deliberately laser targeting the kind of people who would hear a phrase like the communist socialist system of Islam and think, wow, that's bad, that's really bad, that's 3 bad things I hate. How do I stop that thing that must be happening because the man with the nice watch said it was? Which leaves them open to being sold the idea that keeping InfoWars afloat by buying their stuff is basically the same as showing you're a hero fighting back against these very real problems. And for the people who fall for it, it is a real ego boost, which creates a loyal fan base full of repeat customers. Nobody finds these videos convincing, but the people they're for find them reassuring. What you call weird conspiracy theorists who need validation, some people call...
People fucking love Alex. He's quite successful.
A marketable demographic. But to keep this machine going, Jones has to find
You are doing, what is it, the communist socialist system of Islam by giving me $5.
Increasingly outlandish things to say to hold these people's attention and come up with reasons to keep supporting him and fighting the info war. And that means getting more and more ridiculous as the infinite eternal threat only gets even more.
And subscribing to my Patreon. That is $2 a month for premium episodes of my podcast.
Infinitely threatening. Not only does
I do it, but it's better than Alex because I am actually creating sincere content.
This dance get increasingly difficult.
So it's different. Dr. Reaper, thank you for the 9
They've
months.
also discovered that you can't just...
As soon as only $2 a month, PogChamp? As soon as I start
say
selling
lies
snake
about
oil,
people, it
then
turns
you
out.
know.
If they say ridiculous bullshit about real people, they risk being sued for libel or defamation, as is the case with the Sandy Hook parents who are in the process of fucking destroying Jones in court for telling his sizable...
Is there any recent updates on this? Because it's...
audience that the parents of murdered children are all just paid actors and it was a fake shoot.
I mean, this is like one of the reasons why it's like not acceptable. Why it's truly awful for someone like Rogan to promote Alex Jones. Because he is a despicable fucking human being.
So the war on Christmas is a real boon for Jones because he can just go hog wild about whatever comes into his head, just make up whatever, and occasionally cut to footage of a tree being pushed over or some random act of vandalism and explain how they're all connected by a web of destruction by the secret Muslim communist anti-family coalition, and it's so incomprehensible it can't even be considered defamation of anyone. This is the kind of nonsense safe zone InfoWars has to live in to avoid destroying itself by getting owned in court, which is why, for legal reasons, I'm required to mention that story I told earlier about Paul Joseph Watson is not true. I made it up. Those DMs are fake. I thought it would be a funny joke to show how shitty it is to make things up about people. However, even though I made it up, it definitely did happen. The war on Christmas is a safe bet for Jones to cover, since there's no obvious tangible negative effect on real people, except his audience, whose minds he is completely ruining, but that's their choice. As what some French people might call a connoisseur of InfoWars garbage, so I guess it's me whose life they're ruining, this is my favorite kind of the schlock they do, where Alex just grabs a cameraman
the favorite video that I watched, I think it was on the QAA stream at some point, but it was about the lockdown and how Jones was saying that Democrats want to turn America into a hunter-gatherer society through the lockdown, like the destruction of civilization.
Goes out in public and just makes a bunch of noise and runs around annoying people and getting into arguments with whoever he can get his soy-stained hands on. Sometimes he forgets that trying to cite data opens him up to being punked and accidentally offers statistics that can be easily rebuked with simple explanations, and then they have to leave it in because that's the best footage they got that night.
There is a war on Christmas. There is a war on Christianity. Did you know that more than half of all religious persecution in the world is against Christians?
I believe it. I mean, we're one of the largest groups.
No.
So statistically, if there's attack on a religion, there's going to be a lot of attack on Christians.
Somebody wants
yes.
Lightly shakes his hand and leaves. Jones starts losing it, just screaming Merry Christmas into the void, talking about how free he is from control.
Merry Christmas! We're not surrendering, ladies and gentlemen. America and the world is awake.
He's just yelling
Freedom
it.
is rising. And Merry Christmas from Infowars.com.
But then he remembers that the point of all this is to push his products, so then there's another few minutes where he calms down and talks about the great deals you can get at InfoWarsStore.com.
There's a war on Christmas. There's a war on America. There's a war on our free speech. There's a war on the family's very existence. And those very same forces that have it out for Christianity have it out for InfoWars and have it out for you and your family. But we need you to go to InfoWarsStore.com this Christmas. We need you to fund InfoWars by getting great products you need. We've got huge sales going right now.
And this completes the selection process. After spending 50...
Oh yeah, it's pretty much... It's blue, baby. I was wrong. I was predicting Warnock Purdue.
Minutes literally just running around and screaming it.
Do you think that is this certain enough that we can do the bet? Because there's a prediction right now. People are betting their posting points, their precious posting points on would the Dems get double? Probably not yet. Not yet. We'll wait a bit.
People. Anyone still watching is probably a prime target for his advertising. So you get 3 whole minutes of him explaining to you how cheap the deals are. Everything's still more expensive than the equivalent you could find at like any other store. But that's not the point. The point is you're supporting the info war. You're saving the world with free speech and fight bad men. I'm so glad I can fight back against control and be free by purchasing iodine. So we find here that the war on Christmas is a decent way of getting very gullible people to pay attention long enough that you can direct sell them diet supplements. And we've seen how, for people whose business model involves staying close to legal action, something ridiculous and silly like the war on Christmas is kinda a gimme. You can accuse the Bad People Coalition of secret Christmas crimes, and you're safe, because imaginary people you made up can't sue you. However, we still haven't fully discovered why the war on Christmas specifically has such a strong appeal to the kinds of sad people who make up InfoWars' customer base, or why conservatives see such an appeal in believing Christmas is under attack in the first place. So to find out more, I got bored and decided to invent a new recipe for eggnog. Well, there you have it. The war on Christmas is over. And I guess Christmas won because it turned out that there never was a war on it. Oh well. I think eggs go bad pretty quick, don't they? Oh, my tummy and brain. I microwaved this earlier to warm it up, and now there's definitely bits of paint loose in it. Thanks, Neil. Oh, I think I'm crossfaded on paint fumes and alcohol. Oh no, it's happening. I've lost enough IQ points that I think IQ is real. And that means I'm fucked up enough to watch a PragerU video. PragerU is a YouTube channel funded by oil and fracking barons and other related think tanks which likes to masquerade as a university. Honestly, you don't even need to look up the topics they cover. If you find a list of their major
funded by like Emperor Palpatine, the actual equivalent
donors, you can pretty easily guess the entirety of their video output. They make 5-minute long videos which feature next to no research or evidence, but they have a lot of money to spend on infographics and getting special guests to read their scripts, and that's basically the same thing as being true. This one on the war on Christmas is called Just Say Merry Christmas. This is the usual stuff we've seen before, but presented in a new way. I mean, literally, it's just a repurposed Bill O'Reilly script, complete with an aside about how it's the secularists' fault.
The opponents of Merry Christmas and other uses of the word Christmas know exactly what they're doing.
The opponents of Christmas? What the fuck?
They're disingenuous when they dismiss defenders of Merry Christmas as fabricating some, quote, war on Christmas. Of course it's a war.
Wait, so the snowflakes who are making fun of them for caring about things are now soldiers.
On Christmas. Or more precisely, a war on the religious nature of America.
When I first watched this video, this image kept coming back to me of a person who says happy holidays and laughs at people who think the war on Christmas is real, morphing into an enemy combatant. Why was this imagery necessary? Why take people laughing at you for believing a made-up thing, accuse them of knowing exactly what they're doing, and then reveal them to be trying to destroy America's nature? And then I realized that this is the actual core of the whole thing. This image actually explains more about the conservative ideology than anything else we've covered here. You see, Dennis Prager and ideologues like him have for quite a while been encountering this one small problem, which is that their ideas are wrong. This is why, if you watch any of PragerU's other videos,
Decline
they're
of
full of
artistic
complete
standards. That's so cool. That's even better than the like sum of human knowledge. Oh yeah, I changed it. I'll turn it up. This is even better than like the sum of human knowledge thing, where it's like, here's what would have happened if there was no Christianity during the Dark Ages. Like, I think this is
hysterical, imaginary graphs, most of which don't even label their axes. What even is this? And often they make outright false claims and tell clear lies. Sometimes they fabricate ridiculous quotes and put quotations around them as if to say, look at this ridiculous thing people who disagree with you say. But the quote is something they made up. No one actually said this. They made it up and attributed it to some imaginary enemy to try to convince you that this is what people who aren't like you believe, so you must be right. This constant lying and misrepresentation of reality makes my point for me. To get you to believe what they believe, they have to lie, because the truth simply isn't enough to support these beliefs. The bulk of PragerU consists of strategies to get around the fact they don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to the truth. And this is where the war on Christmas and similar conspiracy
it was the original, in terms of like the Judeo-Christian world, the original group of people that got their hands on like ancient Greeks and started interpreting them, specifically Plato, was like the Islamic world in Baghdad.
Theories comes in, because when a belief system
they have an interesting and generally different reading on Plato.
Shaky ground when it comes to the truth, it needs something else to maintain it, extra beliefs and fantasies to prop it all up. Otherwise, doubts and anxieties start to come in. What if I'm wrong?
It's Levi
What if
Strauss.
I've missed something?
Levi Strauss reads Plato through.
What if other people are laughing at me? What better way to put a stop to these feelings than to convince yourself your enemies are trying to destroy your culture, even your holidays? That they're even doing it on purpose and know they're doing it because they're the bad guys and you're the good guys. Instantly, all your doubts and fears that you've
I'm the good guy and they're the bad guy? That makes me feel so much better.
Something. All critical thinking can be dismissed. Life stops being about reason or evidence and starts being about the war to protect your ways from the bad ways. Right and wrong don't matter anymore.
Yeah, it really seems like as a student of the New York Times Needle, who has been right all the time and has never been wrong, it's looking good for Ossoff.
They are conspiring to destroy you. When you don't say Merry Christmas, you're stealing my holiday from me. They even have a little animation where a kid beats up Santa Claus. This is
Let's look at the vote count. Is it not? So I think it's still close, but it's rapidly narrowing.
Is how
rapidly narrowing at a rate that Purdue is likely not going to
the
win.
far right need to convince themselves they are to escape
I don't know.
from
My prediction was Purdue and Warnock. So
much simpler conclusion that some of the things they believe aren't true. Everyone has to be out to get them. Even by saying happy holidays, you're kicking the shit out of their dreams.
No,
Imagine something you
I think that the needle is right.
enjoy, something you love. The bad guys hate it. They'll call it racist and patriarchal and try to destroy it. You're smart. You think good things. Their ideas are weird and strange. It's okay. It's okay. You can go back to sleep. You don't have to.
It's funny how people will come onto Twitch and tell you you should take the vaccine, that needle is good, but then they won't tell you to take the New York Times needle pill. That says a lot about our society.
Think too hard about the fine details of your beliefs if you also think people are out to get you for believing them. You don't have to think about why the evidence or data contradicts you. The bad guys are out to destroy your culture, so they probably made it all up.
We're so busy in America trying to promote tolerance, but this tolerance is tolerating everything.
It's like I'm married. I'm not Miss.
Christianity. You look at Christians as narrow-minded bigots. But the opposite is actually true. Christianity is being bigoted against. We're under attack.
If you're against my intolerance of others, you're attacking me. Conservative Christians must be the real victims of bigotry in the world. I'm not wrong. There's just a war against my beliefs. How convenient.
And it's once again the person of the Lord Jesus Christ that is under attack. But the Bible says no weapon formed against us shall be able to prosper. So we're going to be all right.
Tell that to Constantinople, baby!
So true.
Prager ends his video by summing up his victim complex for me.
By not wishing me a Merry Christmas,
was I in the army? No.
Not being inclusive.
I was in the posting war.
Excluding me from one of my nation's national holidays. So please say Merry Christmas and Christmas party and Christmas vacation.
I won't say any of those.
If you don't, you're not inclusive.
So true.
You're hurtful.
Private military contractors, on the other hand, are fine! What the fuck? Ah, what a delightfully...
I can't believe the left is canceling the Blackwater mercenaries that executed Iraqi civilians.
Biased.
Cancel culture has really gone too far.
No political agenda here. This course was made possible by a generous donation from Reagan.com. A great example of how this imaginary sense of victimhood excuses flaws in the rest of the belief system is present in this video. Prager briefly sums up what he calls the inclusiveness argument. Let's see how he summarizes it.
That Merry Christmas or Christmas party or Christmas vacation is not inclusive.
Now, what he's saying kind of makes sense here, doesn't it? If there's going to be an event during the holiday season that's traditionally called a Christmas party, but some people who don't celebrate Christmas might also be invited to it, some people might argue that calling it a holiday party is a more appropriate name than a Christmas party. Now, personally, I don't think it really matters what you call a party, and
Christmas is honestly not... I mean, it's basically treated as a secular holiday at this point. Like... There's a decent proportion of like Muslim people, for instance, at least in like in countries / who live in countries / cultures who generally celebrate Christmas, who are like, yeah, no, we'll do Christmas, why not? Because there's no significant holiday in Islam around the end of December.
And I also don't really think many non-Christians...
It's not a particular... It's a pretty secular holiday. There are some Jews that celebrate Christmas, yes.
Will decide not to go to an event simply because it's called a Christmas event. But I do see the overall point of the inclusiveness
Christmas is
argument.
just like pagan. Yeah, I know
It is maybe a little more appropriate a name for a gathering of people, and I don't really think there's anything wrong with naming something like that in the hopes it makes some
How do you
people...
call yourself Jewish while doing it? I don't know. Fucking ask them. This is the point, is that it's like not that big of a deal. That for like most people, it's not that fucking big of a deal. And that they're like, the war on Christmas people are the people who are turning something that isn't a big deal, that has relatively little consequence, into something that's a big
feel
deal.
more recognized and included. It's just not a big deal. The argument seems fairly decent to me. So, what is Dennis's rebuttal to this argument? Well, his problem is he doesn't really have one. He simply asks who is really being excluded and uses this to segue into an actually unrelated final point, which we'll get to later. But his actual rebuttal is provided in how he presents this argument, which is that this entire argument is just a trick you shouldn't listen to at all. Let's look at how he sets up the inclusiveness argument in the video.
Activists on the left will eventually seek to remove Christmas as a national holiday. Now, the left doesn't announce that it's a...
That's the thing, is it's like, I like Christmas. Christmas is great. It's fun. I want to remove
to
Christmas.
thoroughly secularize American and European societies. Instead, they offer the
real trick is that what we're actually doing is secularizing Christmas.
inclusiveness argument.
The leftist secularists, an all-powerful cult, are trying to change the nature of America, but they can't just walk around all day saying, I'm evil and want to destroy Christmas, so they came up with this argument instead, but it's not their real reason, so you should ignore it. The argument might sound reasonable, but you shouldn't think about it, because they're bad and have an evil agenda. This masks the actual truth, which is that the inclusiveness argument is actually fairly cogent. Dennis can't give a rebuttal to that, because it's a really simple, small point that just makes sense. But admitting that means conceding that sometimes it's nice to make people feel included, which destroys the entire war on Christmas argument. So instead, he reframes the argument as a fake trick by a group of people who want to remove religion from society, who are only pretending to want people to feel included. And this is how persecution complexes function in making people retain their ideas. If you make a decent enough argument that they can't give a rebuttal to, they can just fantasize about how it's a trick.
This inclusive argument plays on Americans' highly developed sense of decency.
They're just trying to play on your sense of decency, as opposed
But you wouldn't want to get tricked into being decent.
Expecting you to do a really basic, decent thing. It's all part of the secret secularist plot by the secularists to bring about their state religion, secularism.
Most people do not realize that the left believes in secularism as fervently as religious Jews and Christians believe in the Bible.
I'm sorry, what? That doesn't make any fucking sense, Dennis! What does that mean? Who the fuck do secularists pray to? Fucking Aquaman! I did it, I did the joke, I did the thing again. Do you remember it?
Classic
Do you remember?
reference. Classic reference. He did the thing.
So, there we have it. I think we figured out the purpose of the
It's
war
a real
on Christmas.
PogChamp moment.
Sometimes it's to grab people's attention, either to sell advertising space, or to directly sell supplements, soy pills, and buttons, but on a deeper level, it's a fantasy of victimhood that helps to support an underlying...
Actually, yeah, that's the funny idea of, like, the evidence that Christmas is secular is the fact that it is being used by corporations to market shit. That's a good example of it being secular. Warnock race is called? Yeah, that's not a surprise. I've seen enough. Warnock defeats Loeffler.
Belief system that doesn't have...
Which is why, like, that priest, for instance, didn't want Christmas to be represented in, like, consumerism. Because wants Christmas to be Christian.
to support it otherwise. You're not wrong. They're just out...
Again, it's like, it's not... It's at some level attempting to understand that, like, consumerism is bad. But the reason why, like, and this is not every priest, of course. I would imagine a free, like, a Christian, a Catholic priest that goes on Fox News is probably not a socialist. So I would imagine, again, the reason why he doesn't want consumerism is because he wants a Christian fundamental society.
Who's they?
And understands the elements in which capitalism and consumerism actually make that much harder.
It's whoever you want it to be. Oh, and here's one last quick incidental thing that happens to tie all of this together. Prager's old War on Christmas video fills time by talking about how a Jewish person
Yay,
wrote
Warnock won. That's not a surprise. Look, if you believed in the needle, you would not be surprised that Warnock just won.
Christmas.
That's why it's not surprising that it was an American Jew, Irving Berlin, who wrote White Christmas, one of America's most popular Christmas songs. In fact, according to a Jewish musician writing in the New York Times, almost all the most popular Christmas songs were written by Jews. Apparently, all these American Jews felt quite included by Christmas.
That's the most hilarious thing to take from that.
There we go. Non-Christians will never feel excluded by Christmas because 70 years ago a Jewish person wrote a song with Christmas in it. Dennis thinks this is a great point. And you can tell he thinks it's great because he wrote it into the script for this year's video about Christmas as well.
And in perfect melting pot fashion, Irving Berlin, the son of a rabbi, wrote the definitive Yuletide song, White Christmas.
It's such a clever point, you might as well use it twice. Unfortunately for Dennis, Irving Berlin didn't just write exactly one song about Christmas, then disappear into the void. He actually lived on and wrote a few songs that might even be a bit inconvenient for Dennis's argument. He also composed a little ditty called Happy Holiday. That's right, the same guy behind White Christmas also wrote the other incredibly iconic Christmas song, the one that opened and closed Bing Crosby's Big Christmas Show for many years. Apparently, Irving Berlin wrote Happy Holidays into his lyrics because that's a completely normal thing to say, and the use of the phrase has nothing to do with political correctness. Incidentally, White Christmas was composed for a film called Holiday Inn, which also has Happy Holiday on the soundtrack. This fact isn't particularly meaningful here, but I thought it was funny. Dennis Prager obviously knows all this. If he knows about Irving Berlin, he surely knows his other popular songs and their titles. He's not stupid. He knows it's normal to say Happy Holidays at Christmas. It's impossible to miss this fact, even if you do basic research.
Oh, that's funny. They're getting fact-checked. Multiple sources may not have called this race when this was tweeted. That's funny. I don't know, is this done automatically, or did they do this as like well, we want to appear unbiased?
Hell, even one of the articles he cites in the video mentions that White Christmas was written for Holiday Inn, but for his videos, he performatively pretends these facts don't exist, because PragerU is a fake university designed to sell a broken belief system so its donors can continue to profit from the status quo. And at the end of the day, isn't that what Christmas is all about? No. Well, it shouldn't be, but it is. Wow, with motion graphics, you can strawman people easily. Great idea, Dennis, but what are you gonna do if other people start doing it to you? Oh, his mouth fell off. Merry Christmas, everyone. See, I can say it, and I'm king of the male feminists, so clearly there's no problem here. Other people do have holidays around now, though, so happy holidays might be more appropriate in some circumstances. Anyway, if you're angry and you need a reason to be angry to do with Christmas, go to therapy. Just go to therapy. If you're angry and you think it's because lesbians are in a Christmas thing, you're not actually angry because people are corrupting Christmas or infecting your traditions and culture. You're not even angry because of political correctness or leftism. You're angry because you feel expected to be, because you've built a cage for your mind. And the solution to that is to change things about yourself. Sorry, there isn't anything wrong that needs to be fixed with the world. That's you.
I wouldn't be so sure, Harris.
Fortnite Tower Recon Specialist! You're alive!
Yes, thanks to the magic of Christmas, I'm real now. And I'm going to take you on an adventure of discovery until you convert to whatever Kirk Cameron thinks is Christianity. You know, like in reactionary Christian movies.
What is this, a nostalgia critic video? We're not doing that. We're not parodying a whole movie genre now. This is the end of the video. We're done.
But movie parodies are automatically funny if you know what they're referencing. So it's easy content. And you make videos slowly enough already. This way, half the script writes itself.
Yeah, for the first few minutes maybe, but I can't sustain a whole... You know, I'm sick of this bit too. We're done. That's the end of...
You can't just end a video because you gave up on your own storyline.
Happy Wintermas, everybody!
Great. I'll probably end the stream now. Thank you for sticking by, everybody. It's a good if you want to listen to, I have a new podcast episode. Oh, fuck. And then also the premium part of it is on my Patreon for $2 a month. Just a short $2 a month. There's also a, oh, you have to call a prediction. Oh yeah. Sorry. Just do yes. I trust the needle. It's a yes. It's a dem win. Needle time, baby. And now you guys are complicit. Every single one of you that participated in that, especially the ones who won, are now complicit in believing the needle. So I got you guys. I fucking got you. Yeah, subscribe to my Patreon for the premium, $2 a month. It's all that. I'll raid Lance because he is streaming again, and because I think he had audio issues, did he not? And he raided me, so raid for raid. So yeah, I'll see you guys not tomorrow, but the next day on Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, the usuals. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching.
Become one of the most powerful